and a good morning to you. I trust you are well this 15th of July. Today being a Monday, we have a comprehensive show lined up for you. And we're inviting you back at home to let us know where you're watching us from. Also, we have a question of the day. Today we're talking about matters employment. And now that the finance bill was rejected and again also cabinet secretaries were sent home, do we have good news? Is it going to give gravitas to lighten the situation that we are experiencing in the country? Remember, the Gen Zs continue to be steadfast and forward on their demonstrations, meaning that they're not backing down. And I've seen a couple of the highlights. They're saying tomorrow is still Occupy CBD, and I thought, you know, it's something that probably most of us would be a part of. But in any kind of way, advocacy for justice is what a lot of young people are saying they want, and they want an equal government that recognizes them and so much more. So there's a lot of demands still, but we trust everything is going to end up well for you and I and the Gen Zs in general as well. Away from that, the hashtag is Why in the Morning at Y254 channel _ on the gram. Personally, mine is at Brian Sako101. I'm going to get you to some of the top trending stories that are making headlines in the newspapers, blogs, websites, and everywhere. And I'm going to start off by police are investigating cults and serial killers in the Mukuru Kwanzenga Kware saga. This comes against a backdrop of so many events that have culminated to that. Remember, it started off with one body that was discovered, and then it led to so many others. That's all part of the top trending stories, including all Kware police officers have also been transferred into Mukuru. This again comes as a backdrop of security checks in the country. On the other side, President Ruto assures Kenyans on public debt audit task force amid the legal hurdles. And then on the other side, Kenyans have until July 22nd, this is next week, to submit views on the new budget following the finance bill rejection. And then another story as well that took center stage for the better part of the weekend is world leaders condemning political violence after an attempt to assassinate former U.S. President Donald Trump. And the stories on that continue to build up. I'm going to get to the first story about Mukuru Kwanzenga, and police continue to investigate. Now, we saw Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome resigning, and it has left a gap in there, but there's acting Inspector General of Police. We'll get to that in just a bit. As criminal investigations continue, DCI boss Mohammed Amin has revealed that police beg your pardon, are investigating, and this includes several leads, including potential links to cult activities, serial killers, and rogue medical practitioners following the discovery of at least 8 female bodies at an abandoned quarry in Mukuru slums. The investigation intensified after Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja announced transfer for all officers stationed at the Kware Police Station to ensure a fair and unbiased probe into the incident. Kanja made the announcement on Sunday as officials continued to search for bodies at the Kware dam site. He emphasized the need for a thorough and impartial investigation to uncover the truth behind the heinous acts. Preliminary investigations revealed that all the 8 bodies recovered were female, and most of them were severely dismembered. He indicated that it took, and also it will take, an investigative agencies 21 days to unravel the mystery behind dismembered bodies found at the Kware dam site in Embakasi South constituency. DCI boss Mohammed Amin outlined the potential leads being pursued by investigators. So there's a lot of speculations on that. Are they victims of femicide or victims of development of the Shakahola massacre? But also they've mentioned here, they're actually linking it to maybe cultic practices, because it's really shocking that all the victims are female, apart from, I think, one male person who's unidentified as of now. But then there's developments of that as police officers manning around the Kware area have been transferred, and this includes the discovery of at least 8 female bodies at the abandoned quarry. Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja said that the officers will be replaced by a new team to ensure a fair and unbiased investigation. This move comes as investigators explore the possibility of cult-like activities, serial killers or rogue medical practitioners being involved. This again comes against a backdrop of so many other speculations on that. But on the other side, DCI boss Amin Mohammed says it could be linked to possible practices of either cultic behavior. The investigation intensified after Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja announced the transfer of all officers stationed at the police station to ensure a fair and unbiased probe into the incident. He made the announcement yesterday. So this again is another trending stories that will be following up for the better part of this week. And we're also inviting you to actually let us know what are some of those interesting stories that you've seen across the weekend that you'd probably like us to share. On the other side, President Uhuru Kenyatta, President Ruto, has assured Kenyans about the public debt audit task force amid legal issues and furore building up on social media, with Gen Zs demanding an open, and most of them are actually demanding receipts. And the stories ya kusalimiana saizi they're at its peak. So President William Ruto has reassured Kenyans that the newly appointed Public Debt Audit Task Force will uncover the full extent of the nation's public debt, which has significantly impacted the country's economy. Speaking on Sunday at a church service yesterday at Nyandarua at Ndaragwa, Ruto emphasized that the audit will provide clarity on the national debt and the use of public funds. This assurance comes despite a recent High Court order suspending his Gazette notice appointing the task force. Last week, Justice Lawrence Mugambi issued a conservatory order prohibiting the task force from discharging any duties pending the hearing of the case. And quote unquote, he said, pending the hearing on determination of this application, an interim order is hereby issued prohibiting the respondents either by themselves or through anyone else acting at their best from discharging any function pursuant to the Executive Order Number 4, establishing the Presidential Task Force on the Forensic Audit of Public Debt. That's what Justice Mugambi said. So despite the court order, he reiterated that the importance of the task force is helping the government manage its resources, sustainability, prevent excessive debt burdens that could harm the economy. Remember, also last week we had, what is her name? Somebody, Koziak. Is it Jane Koziak? She is a spokesperson for IMF. They issued an apology to Kenya following the events that happened on 25th of June that led to over 41 plus lives being lost. So they are apparently apologizing to Kenya for the Finance Bill 2024. From the speculations, the critiques, and the analysts, they're saying the 2024 Finance Bill is an IMF bill. Actually, most of the reactions online, including international critics, they are saying IMF is the one that set some of these financial bills for each and every year, because in that, their aim is to collect the money that that country owes them. There's an article as well that was written by one of the, I think one of the professors that was published, could be in the Washington Post. I don't exactly remember, but he said the IMF does not help countries. The IMF starts fires. And this is literally the aftermath of the IMF, what you're going through right now. But we trust and everything will be fine. And he highlighted the necessity of a debt-free and stable economy, noting that a new cabinet to be announced soon will have national perspective to support the country's success. Ruto pointed to the current unrest across the nation as evidence of a significant shift and stressed the need for stability and decisiveness in government. He also revealed that the continuous outcry from Kenyans over the debt burden impacting their daily lives led to the decisions to form an independent debt task force to conduct a forensic audit of Kenya's public debt. The government aims as well to manage the ballooning debt effectively. So this is a part of their, in fact, part of the biggest conversation that Gen Zs want is we want accountability. The money that we have been receiving from the IMF and these other international lenders, what has it done and how is the money spent? So that's part of the conversation. All right. On the other side, more bodies retrieved from quarry dump site in Mukuru Kwanjenga amid rising fears. Still on that one. I think we'll get to that in just a bit. All right. A crowd gathered at the scene to witness development amid growing tensions Detectives from the Homicide Unit at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters oversaw the exercise, urging for patience as they work to unravel the truth behind the gruesome discovery. And police pointed out that an investigation into the death and the dumping site has been formed, including part of a task force that will investigating that has been given 21 days. The search has been slow, with teams relying on locals who are lowered by ropes to retrieve the bodies. One boat was also brought to the scene to assist in the search and recovery mission. The mystery of the mutilated bodies found at Mukuru Kwa Njenga in slums in Nairobi continued to deepen as more sacks containing bodies were still being retrieved on the second day. The DCI officials, homicide team and the Reke squad are on site to lead the retrieval of the bodies. The recovery of the bodies has now increased to more than 10 since the first discovery on Friday. Human rights groups expect the number to rise even further, as on the other side, DCI boss Mohamed Amin confirmed homicide detectives were analyzing samples from the scene to positively identify the bodies. And caught in court, he said preliminary investigations suggest a similar mode of killing for the deceased, and their bodies have been transferred to the city mortuary where they wait for post-mortem examinations. Witnesses at the scene revealed that the bodies had a similar degree of decomposition, estimated to be between 1 to 2 weeks, and this will be confirmed through post-mortem examinations at city mortuary. Again, that's another development to that story. On the other side, internationally, Trump assassination takes center stage in the headlines, and this includes one person who actually died at the shooting, and former President Donald Trump sustained injuries. So the extraordinary images of a defiant Donald Trump pumping his fist in the air with blood on his face being rushed off the stage by the Secret Service are not just history-making, but they may also alter the course of November's presidential election. Remember, the USA is set to have its election this year in November, and it's Biden against Trump. I don't know if we'll have the other guy. I've forgotten his name, but he's also very vocal. But I believe he's not been given much syndication as Donald and Joe Biden. In their recent, was it CNN debate, they had a sitting, and a lot of people were shocked at Joe Biden's demeanor because sometimes he appeared frozen. There's an event, it's an American event called Juneteenth. They celebrate a black culture, independence, and black music in the USA. It's a big event as well. Joe Biden was in the event and he appeared frozen. So it's like he has this frozen symptom where he looks still, not moving, not blinking, not breathing, until sometimes he's yanked off stage. So the critics are saying he's probably not fit for office. But his wife, Jill Biden, who also visited Kenya last year, has been very steadfast and super forward in saying that, her husband will contest, and she's backing him up, and that is Joe Biden, the current president of the USA. So the shocking act of political violence will inevitably have an effect on the campaign, as the U.S. Secret Service agents shot dead the suspect at the scene. Law enforcement sources told the BBC's and some of the U.S. partners, including CBS News, that they are treating the attack as an assassination attempt. The picture of a bleeding Trump. So funny thing is, on Saturday night I was watching CNN and I was not paying attention. So like around 3 minutes, I'm seeing breaking news, President Donald Trump. So I was like, why did I not even pay attention? And then they replayed it. But in the news analysis with the lady, there was this reporter who was live on that location. You know the way CNN does their reporting. They go live on scene, they come back with an expert live on scene. So by the time they were coming back to the same reporter, this event had already happened. It happened like in 2 minutes, in less than 2 minutes. So I was like, but I've been watching CNN just 2 minutes ago. Why did I not see this? So it's really interesting how these things happen. And it was live on TV, that event. So President Joe Biden appeared on TV shortly after that and said that there was no place in America for political violence like this. He expressed concerns for his Republican opponent, and he also hoped to speak with him later. Mr. Biden's election campaign paused all political statements, and it's also working to take down its television ads as quickly as possible, and clearly believing that it would be inappropriate to attack Donald Trump at this time, and instead concentrating on condemning what's happened. Politicians from all across political spectrums have also agreed on every little sense that will lead to the coming together. So when I was living in the house this morning, I think they were doing another presser, and I think they're set to meet. They're calling it the RNC. I'll find out what RNC stands for. But again, I think it's a meetup between Republicans and Democrats. Or either way, it's an address that's set to take center stage today. So when I was leaving the house, they were having that CNN town hall convergence. And Donald Trump is expected to be there. And prior to that, he had already had a presser, and he said he's actually advocating for unity. So in his speech, he says he's not going to talk about the event that happened on Saturday. I believe during the day, but as here it was past midnight. In fact, it was 1 a.m. towards 2 a.m. while that was happening live on CNN. And former President Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Jimmy Carter were all quick to denounce the violence and said how relieved they were that Donald Trump is still alive. And this is some of the part of the top trending stories right there. And before we proceed, I would like to invite you to let us know where you're watching us from on the hashtag, which is Why in the Morning. Today being a Monday, almost said Tuesday. Today being a Monday, we are all about matters MCM and state of the nation. So in just a bit as well, we'll be delving into what exactly is making headlines as well with our guest who will be live with us in studio in just a bit. On the other side, Moses Kuria, who's a former cabinet secretary, has done a presser, and he said, quote unquote, this is what he said: "I had been referring to those young protesters as the generation of Twitter, Uber, and fish fingers. They have proven me wrong. Those who have shown me that they can be an important engine in taking this country forward. If God tells me to close my eyes and make a wish right now, I'll say I want to be a Gen Z." Those are sentiments from Moses Kuria. He has been controversial as well when it comes to social media. Remember, he was heading the Ministry of Investment, Trade, and Industry. MITI, right? It was abbreviated as MITI, right? That was taken over by former now CS Rebecca Miano. They're now out of office. And I think also that, again, will form the conversation of today. Does the dissolving of cabinet, give impetus and gravitas to having a lighter, forward when it comes to now opportunities? Are Gen Z satisfied? In fact, there's somebody, I was in like 2 X spaces over the weekend, and people are asking, so what's next for Gen Z? Is it Matters Dialogue? Remember, the president rolled out the National Meta Something Forum to constitute around 50 to 100 members from the Gen Z community. They'll be talking about things that they want adjusted or solved. And then it was to be announced that they were to have a conversation today, the dialogue today. So it's dilemma. Are they having the conversation today? The president did not talk about it yesterday. In fact, most news outlets were asking, when is this dialogue happening and who are the people that are supposed to be in the dialogue? Remember, we had opposition leader Raila Odinga, who was in the first briefing when they first issued a presser at KICC of whether they're going to have a conversation with the Gen Zs or not. And then he was salimiwad, akasalimiwa na some 1, 2, 3 people, and then he tweeted and said, he's had the people, he's had the Gen Zs, and he's not going to be part of the dialogue. And then we had Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper Party leader, who again said he doesn't want Gen Zs to take part in the dialogue because they're actually referring it to the NADCO report. Do you remember the NADCO report? Do you remember the WAKI report and many others, in between? So we had the opposition side saying and tweeting, I think I remember it was Martha Karua who said, she tweeted and said, the dialogue is a trap. And then we also had Eugene Omalwa who said he's not boarding. So there's a lot happening on the other side, and I also like to hear from you. But then on the other side, there's a little bit of good news, but it's good news that's also bad news partially. EPRA, that is Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority, has reduced petrol price per litre to 1 bob. So the cost of super petrol and diesel and kerosene will be amounting to 1 shilling, that is for super petrol, 1 shilling and 50 cents for diesel, 1 shilling and 30 cents, that is for kerosene, respectively. Super petrol, diesel and kerosene will now retain at 188 and 84 cents. 171 and 60 cents, pardon me, 161 and 75 cents respectively in Nairobi starting. This actually was implemented yesterday, so started midnight last night. So it means it's a little bit of reprieve. Let me see, what was the reaction from the netizens? There's somebody said, ikipandishwa huwa inapandishwa na 7 bob, but kupunguzwa inauma sana. All right, another person said, the road levy has been increased from 18 Kenya shillings to 25 Kenya shillings in today's pricing. I thought it was suspended, Ama. The last kicks of a dying nose. There's a lot of reactions on that one as well. Okay, Justin, the students out of Buriru Boys School in Meru have stormed out of the school and run towards Maua town. They can be seen running towards, so there was unrest at I believe it's Burieruri Boys School in Meru. Students actually experienced unrest and they were seen just exiting school in haste. So I trust calm was restored. Calm, C-A-L-M, calm, pronounces calm. All right, on the other side, M-Pesa services to be disrupted on Sunday night. I don't know if you experienced that yesterday, but you know, there's also, do you remember during the first demonstration? No, this was on 25th of June when protesters stormed Parliament, and then after that, you know, former CS Defense Aden Duale declared the Kenya under security emergency. And then kidogo there was like a little bit of throttling meaning throttling/gagging, meaning that they tried to tamper with the speed bandwidth of the internet and algorithm of social media. And there was a little bit of a slowdown. Tweets were loading a little bit, they were lagging. Instagram, there's people that got suspended. There was one of the influencers, she had posted something and it got suspended. And then people got so angry, they started tagging Elon Musk, asking him to bring Starlink. And the good news is Elon Musk responded. So there's, I think, a program and a process in place on how to have Starlink as a network to replace Safaricom. This is according to the Gen Zs on X during that day. But then, according to the Kenyan Constitution, I believe from Article 33, 34, 35, that's where it talks about journalists, the freedom of the press, freedom of expression and whatnot. You know, find out what the Constitution talks about your freedom of expression. And they were giving out an outline of why should they gag internet to suppress the voice of the people. And I think during that stint, we had Safaricom CEO coming to say, oh, I apologize, it was an error. They talked about the cable undersea, you know, the undersea earth cable. Kumbe they lied. In fact, the guys from the undersea cable kakuja wakasema there was nothing like that. And so the emotion was started to boycott Safaricom, saying it was in bed with, you know, I don't want to say it, okay? All right, so yesterday there was a little bit of disruption, but I didn't notice it. I'm just realizing it now. There's no justification for Kenyans caught in court to lose life. We are a democratic country guarded by the rule of law. Those involved in mysterious killings in Nairobi and any other parts of the country will be held to account. These are sentiments from President William Ruto. But then in some of the spaces that I personally been, a lot of people are asking, why can't he mention even the names? Why can't he even say, you know, so-and-so was brutally murdered? Remember, the first photos that went viral on 25th, I was in the protest of 25th, not protesting, I was streaming live on my IG. I think I spoke about that last week. And there's this guy who was shot twice and his head was, and the brains was scattered everywhere. So people are asking, and then at around the same scene, there was this group of 3 guys who were carrying the Kenyan flag, and they were standing next to that body and they are raising their hands in the air, and still police were aiming at them and trying to disperse them. I think that clip, if you go on CNN's Larry Madowo's X handle, you'll see. I retweeted it yesterday as well. At first it was just a photo, but I think Larry is doing some good work of digging into the original. Go to Larry Madowo's X handle. I'm not promoting, but yeah, journalists for journalism. Anyways, yeah. So some of the reactions to that, of what the president said yesterday, he says, can we begin with the cop who killed Rex? And runs freely. Remember the killer cop? His name is Murangiri. I've forgotten the other second name. A lot of people are asking, why can't he be brought to book? And as much as we are all, this is like, this is a new month, literally, 4 weeks later, literally. Nothing has been done. Hey, I don't want to read this one. I don't want to read this comment because it's Atibu Bashalin. Anyways. Another one said they are alive, right? Quote unquote. I think this is from during the first presser, the convergence that the president had with Linus Kaikai and Joe Ageo and Eric Latif from Standard. Another one said Tuesday is Tuesday, sweet words. Another one says a man who killed people in churches, Nalangata. Okay, really harsh comments. But you know, right now there's no space for sugarcoating. We call it as it is. If it's murder, it's murder, because a lot is happening. But at the end of the day is we just trust that all these events are going to lead to a better country, right? The comments are many. The audacity, may God, okay. All right, so what do you think? The president has spoken out and said there's no justification for the murders, okay? All right, now let's take a look at effects of the Gen Z protest so far. What has been the results of that? And I want to take you through them very, very, very fast. So the first, I say the first fruits of the Gen Z's protest. The first one is a full withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. Who would have thought it would have been withdrawn? So it means the movement is working, okay? And then the second one is dismissal of President Ruto's cabinet. We saw cabinet secretaries. But you know, the gag is, why were they giving thank you messages? You know, those people in the X space who are arguing, if they were fired, wangekuwa wanalia, wangekuwa na, you know, wanajaribu kusema, oh, I wish, we regret. But it's like they were saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. So people are saying this is a targeted move. Because if truly they were innocently fired, they'd be very harsh. Other some of them would have disappeared, you know, and focus was on Moses Kuria and I think not Oscar Sudi, there's this guy, Mithika Linturi, cabinet secretary, former, all of them are now former cabinet secretaries. Former cabinet secretary agriculture who he had a scandal that has not been explained till today of the fake fertilizer scandal. All right, another one is resignation of Inspector General of Police, that is Japhet Kome, who was pressured to actually give account what happened. How did police go to the streets and end up shooting over 41 people dead? And those lives are not accounted for till now. All right. Another one is stopping the employment of 50 CSs. They were nominated at first. By the way, have you guys realized that we've not heard from government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura since the demos began? Since his last tweet where he said he believes Gen Zs are funded by Russians. And there was gossip and word on the curb that he's been fired. We've not heard from him since that time till today. So do you hope he's fired? I don't know. I'll leave it to you. All right. The other one is peaceful demos in the county government. So people have now moved from now national government to county governments, and they're saying they're going even to visit governors and members of parliament. So wanaenda kuwasalimia one by one. We saw in Nandi, we saw in Bomet, we even saw in Kisii, where protesters and people are demanding, like, you've been representing us. How much have you spent? What have you done for us? All right. The First Lady and the Deputy President's spouse budgets has been stopped. Banning of politicians in churches, suspending foreign travel of state officers, closure of irrelevant government agencies, civil servants above 60 years asked to retire, purchase of government cars suspended for 1 year. I didn't know that. Kumbe, they've suspended it. Okay. And then President directs government to cut spending. So these are part of the achievements that the Gen Zs have achieved since they started demonstrating and picketing as of July 13th. That's a report, okay? So we trust also everything is going to be fine. On the other side, do you remember this guy? His name is Silvanus Osoro. He's one of the stubborn guys. All right, stubborn to me, my personal opinion here, COI254. All right, Silvanus Osoro, President William Ruto, so this is what he said, quote unquote, President William Ruto was wrong by dropping and withdrawing the Finance Bill 2024. Do you now see why I said he's a stubborn guy? And even today, this is according to him, quote unquote, he says even today he would vote yes to the bill, and should it come back, it's time Kenyans know that the only way to make Ruto go is through elections. No amount of hashtags and riots will make him quit. And let me get to the comments and just read to you what Kenyans are saying. Another one called him a dog. Another one says, continue giving him the mic. The comments are nasty, 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 nasty. Remember there's a time when there's something Silvanus Osoro said, I think it was in Parliament or during one of the presses, and then we heard Dennis Ombachi, the content creator. He said, huyu msee alirumiwa juu alikuwa orphan, akasomeshwa ndo akapewa job. So somebody here says, huyu ndio jamaa alirumiwa juu ni orphan na akapewa kura. But he has now the audacity to talk. But there was a little bit of arrogance, especially from Murkomen and Silvanus Osoro, who have just said he's very stubborn. And then, no sooner had we even rested and tried to blink, Farah Maalim comes up again and says he would murder 5,000 Gen Zs if he was the president. And believe me, he's been salimiwad very, very, very well. So let me get you through it. Dada, Member of Parliament Farah Maalim, he was actually kicked out of Sarova White Sands Beach Hotel in Mombasa, where he had booked for a weekend out beginning on Friday. Imagine he was having a good time. After checking into the luxury hotel on Friday, the hotel's management resolved not to host him following his inflammatory remarks on Gen Z's protesters, where he claimed that had he been the president, he could have slaughtered and murdered and tortured at least 5,000 demonstrators during the 25th of June, who stormed into Parliament during the process. And on the other side, Sarova Hotels and Resorts Kenya Managing Director Jimmy Kariuki confirmed Maalim's rejection, explaining that the beach hotel does not in any way condone Maalim's controversial remarks. And this is what they put up and said. Farah Maalim is no longer a guest at our hotel. We asked him to leave the hotel earlier in the day. We do not in any way condemn his inflammatory and threatening statements against Kenyans, and will not associate our brand with such a person. So Maalim failed to honor a summon by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission on Thursday, July 11th, over his utterances that sparked nationwide outrage. NCIS Chairperson Samuel Kobia said the lawmaker sent a communication asking to appear before the commission next week on Monday. So he's set to appear today. Pretty sure we'll be following up on that one. Like, why did he say such derogatory and inflammatory remarks, especially at a time like this? Right? And I think part of that is what the Gen Zs are saying, stop being rude. The tweets. All right, another one who's adding fire to the fuel, who's adding fuel to the fire, vice versa, okay, is Karen Nyamu. Like, Karen Nyamu has pissed off everyone. And I was surprised, to be honest. I didn't know that she's a lawyer until you question what law school did she pass through? Does she even give a personality of somebody who's a lawyer? Those are some of the questions that are being asked in some of these X spaces. All right, let me get to the story, tafadhali. There's an artist by name Nadia Mukami. If you're a big fan of Kenyan music, you know who she is. She was in a conversation, discussion where she actually gave her honest opinions about Karen Nyamu, nominated senator, and quote unquote, this is what Nadia said: Karen Nyamu is more of a socialite rather than a leader. It's a stray bullet, but it's the truth. She really needs to check herself. She has a position, but we all get it. It's all about her personal life. There are so many deserving women out there who are intellectual and smart. And trust me, Kenyans will not give her time, because you remember when the finance bill was being discussed, when it was being hotly talked about, she was asked, what is the finance bill? She didn't even have words to say. The only thing she said is it's discussed in the National Assembly or something, Dense intellect, okay? All right. those are some of the top trending stories, apart from, before I get to the last one. So last week, as Kenyans were gearing to end their weekend, the IMF came out and said, you know what, we apologize for the things that you guys have been through. So International Monetary Fund IMF spokesperson Julie Kozak apologized for the situation in Kenya, reflecting its broader challenges facing many of our low-income members. In fact, the category is Kenya is a low-income members. And I actually watched the brief. She mentioned Kenya is suffering from things like concessional funding, where they have to like sit down and ask, do you really need this money? What are some of the situations in your economy that are probing you to request for this amount of money? They talked about things like social programs that touches on matters like education, human rights, healthcare. So they said the IMF has Kenya's interest at heart, but is it true? And allegedly, they're saying some of these finance bills that are not just in Kenya, because I hear there's also a Nigerian finance bill. There's also a Ghanaian from Ghana, a Ghana's finance bill. And they're saying probably most finance bills are usually IMF's. So the reason why they're calling them IMF's bill is because when the IMF, International Monetary Fund, lends you money, paying it sometimes is not easy. So there have to be there have to be an agreement of, I think it's called the payment agreement, where you have to discuss with the person who is being lent to the money of what are some of the strategies that you're going to use to pay this debt and for how long. And they'll suggest to you, now that we've given you $500 million US, for us to get that money, you have to tax this and this and this and that. And you want this money maybe in the next 5 years. So these are some of the things that are being discussed and talked about right now. And I tell you, it's not a good show to see. It's not a good sight to see. But the rage is what Kenyans are like, you know what, you can't call us a low-income members. So quote unquote from that, from the sentiments, did she just call us a low-income member? Another one says, dear IMF, stay away from our country. We shall address you when we are done with the small meetings we are having. Another one, the IMF doesn't help Africa, it cripples Africa. I believe that's true from some of the articles I've read as well. And then another person said, she's abusing us, tupatie namba yake tumsalimie. Another one said, tunaweza pata email yako na address yako. So pretty much Kenyans are really angry. And the Gen Zs are saying they're going to fix this country bit by bit, including international bodies. As we speak tomorrow, I believe, Kenyans are set to demonstrate outside IMF offices, that is in Washington, I believe, in the USA, from I think 12:30 to 3:30 from the banner that I saw online. So this is in regards to Kenya does not need external funding from the IMF. Remember, we owe the IMF a lot of money. We owe the World Bank a lot of money. Recently, I think, was it the Eurobond that recently the president paid? But we still have many debts. All right, before we actually exit, there's a story about Inspector General of Police, IG Koome. I think I had talked about that. Petition has been filed to declare the National Assembly unconstitutional. Wow. There's a lot of developments happening, many of them organic, many of them people-centered. Effect of the Kenyan police not being felt in Haiti. You know, remember a contingent of 400 KDF were deployed to Haiti to curb the situation there. So there's a lot of reports, there's a lot of developments and some of these stories coming up. A lot of abductions as well. There's an update about the US ambassador to Kenya, who, quote unquote, here they're saying, on Friday morning, US ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, trended on X with many Kenyans on the platform questioning her massive involvement in local politics, thereby proposing her recall. Former CEO of eBay and HP, but she was former CEO of eBay and HP. HP, I believe, is Hewlett Packard in full, that's in charge of making those HP laptops. So it's a big multinational, international company. Has on multiple occasions commented publicly on matters politics, being in support of the president. So remember, she fled the country because of, I believe, there's so many reasons. I think immediately when protesters stormed Parliament on 25th, I hear she was wheeled out of the country, so she left, and we've not heard from her since that day till today. But that already tells you something about the relationship between Kenya and the USA. But then also we've not seen the US say something. We've not seen, I think, Joe Biden say something. We've not seen former President Barack Obama. There's a live CNN report that Larry Madowo was doing, and it featured Barack Obama's half-sister, that is Alma Obama, and she was there with her grandsons. And the caption on CNN was Alma Obama, Barack Obama's sister, tear-gassed live on CNN. Really sarcastic, but it was literally telling the international. In fact, it was telling Obama in the face, look, your sister is being tear-gassed live on CNN, cable news network. Can't you say something? Till today, Obama has not said anything. And from some of the critic videos and experts saying, you know, Obama is not supposed to say anything because he's friends with, you know who. Anyways, right? So those are some of the top trending stories, I believe. Let me get to the question of the day, and I get to see if you guys have said something on social media in just a bit. At Y254 channel _ on the gram. In just a bit, we'll be talking about youth and employment towards the tail end. Youth watapata majobs after Masies kutemwa nje, right? Does dissolving of cabinet going to lead the youth to get opportunities? How? I'd like to see how that works. But yeah, that will be towards 9 a.m. But coming up shortly, we are diving into the state of the nation, and we'll be discussing this and many more, including our country's public debt with Hilary Ocheng, who I believe is just around in studio in just a bit. So we'll be talking about that and much more. But the question of the day is, youth watapata majobs after Masies kutemwa nje? Is it going to work? What do you think? That is the question of the day. And I'll get to your feedback in just a bit. But for now, we are inviting you to let us know where you're watching us from on the hashtag, which is Why in the Morning, at Y254 channel everywhere. And personally, mine is at Brian Sakwana1. I believe we are due for a break. And when we come back, we'll be delving into the state of the nation in just a bit. Stay tuned.
Y254. Imagine.
As you settle in from the hustles and bustles of your day, I have taken a responsibility upon myself to make sure that you unwind in style.
Yo. Skia.
We bring you a cocktail of not just entertainment, but edutainment as well. From the events happening around the country, to movie reviews of the latest films, Creative Corner, where we get to highlight different creatives in the industry, get to know your stars on Star of the Week as we dish out the 411, yani Moshane, on what is happening on the tabloids. And did I mention that we have a quote of the day? All this under the umbrella of The Buzz, every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m. only on Y254 channel.
Comando, wambie sisi ndo vipenzi komando. Komando, wambie sisi ndo vipenzi komando.
Inakuwaje? Ni kila Jumatatu kutokea saa 1:05 hadi 3:30. Ndio unafahamu sisi ni makomando wa Afrika Mashariki ambao tunakupa kipindi chenye mapozi, tunatazama na mapozi ya kwako. Wanasema kwamba you can call me Kenny at Kenrelby.
Wagwang, my name is DJ Kuch, pale kwenye chiki na kupatia mziki zote za East Africa, old school, new school, zote ziko ndani. We can link up at DJ Kuch. Boom.
And of course with me, Kalondu Musimi, I'll be giving you all the entertaining stories in East Africa. Nitakuwa nikuambia nani amefanya nini, kwa nini na akiwa na nani.
Hatuagizi na mabosi, sisi wenyewe mabosi, wanatobea mikosi, tunalindwa na sagodi pekee. Kuimbie Bwana, mfalme wa mbinguni, nimbe na zaburi.
Our stories shape our future. It's within them that we get to know ourselves.
God always came through in a way that we couldn't even explain. And we came to realize that putting God at the center of it is like everything else will just flow.
Everything.
What do you do when push comes to shove?
He was a great man. At that moment, he was supportive. Until 6 months, we went for the first surgery.
That's why here on The Nest, we tell you these stories to empower you and shape your parenting. Every Tuesday from 7:30 p.m. only on Y254.
What's up, beautiful people? It's your host with the most, Muna Joy.
And your DJ Faro the Finisher. Catch us every Friday from 6 p.m. mpaka saa 2 usiku on Tano Kali Show.
Right here on Kenya's #1 channel, YT54.
Oh yeah, baby Jamboree. I like the way we gone, buddy.
We're going to be giving you hot trending topics that are happening on social media platforms. We will also be interviewing hella talented artists on the show as well.
Kama kawaida, I'll be here to give you the best mixes. Alafu sahau pia kuna top 5 hits of the week.
All right, see you then.
Like I never loved in my life. So love me like you never loved me. Botane kolo 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 ji beat pe dolo 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 zinda panda ho. Dale dan man gangare zinda panda ho. Shining in the setting sun like a pearl upon the ocean. Come and feel me, oh feel me. Feelूं है पीने का मौसम तेरे संग इश्क तारी है.
Naomba nafasi mimi nicheze nawe ateja karibu siniche kitoka oye hatujuani but tonight you could be my babe soga nambe inform imekubali excuse me.
Promise me Sam not to do the things I've done.
Kama umepewa sahau shida kama umesota leo tupige makelele.
That is the energy that we are starting off, that whenever the energy is wrong, we beat it wrong out here at karaoke. The only show you get the opportunity to wear the courage of Omena. Look at the mic here through the eye and get to unleash the inner rock star.
I am Lion Zion, yeah, I'm on the rise.
Every Saturday at 10 p.m. and I repeat on 6 p.m. Hey, with me, Professor Kamau, kijana aliye na uzoefu mithili ya shilingi kwa ya pili on your #1 youth channel station Y254. Imagine we
Y254. Imagine.
right, and welcome back. You're still right here with us on the hashtag Why in the Morning. I'm Brian Sakwa. Karibu sana if you're joining us. We are continuing. This is the first conversation of the day, and we're just about to delve into matters state of the nations. What is the current situation in the country? What are some of the stories that are pushing conversations out there, and especially on social media when it comes to matters advocacy for justice? We've seen a lot of resignations as well. Are there a lot? Really, I think it's just one. We saw IG Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome resigning after the president dissolved cabinet. There was also a national multi-sectoral forum being rolled out in matters dialogue. It was said to happen today. Is it going to happen or not? But also the question we're asking you on MCM is the dissolving of cabinet leading to opportunities? Is it going to lead to opportunities? What is the way forward for Gen Zs now that tomorrow they're saying it's Occupy Tuesday, Occupy CBD Tuesday, and I've seen it's Anguka Nayo Tuesday? What is the way forward? Matters state of the nation, that's what we are delving into in just a bit. So inviting you to also let us know what are some of those hard-hitting stories that are shaking the headlines that you'd like us to delve into and be part of this conversation on the hashtag Why in the Morning. And I'm being joined live in studio by Sir Hilary Ocheng. Sir Hilary Ocheng, he's a political analyst and a student at a University of Nairobi. Karibu sana, Hilary. So let's begin off immediately. We saw cabinet being dissolved, which I believe, I think you came in when I was pointing out some of the successes that this Gen Z's movement has achieved. And the top is, I believe, the deletion or the doing away of the 2024 finance bill. And then the pressure intensified. There's a phrase that said pressure increase or decrease. It was followed by dissolving of cabinet. And then prior to that, the president had already issued a statement saying they're set to have dialogue with the Gen Zs. And then we also had now Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome resigning. And there are so many other things in between happening in there. So from where you sit and what you've observed as a Gen Z, what is the way forward?
Okay, what I can say, the political heatwave in the country has made the citizens of the country to realize that even the young generation have the voice to sustain this country. You know, in the study of democracy, we have two types of democracy. We have representative democracy and direct democracy. So in Kenya, we tend to use the representative democracy, where we elect leaders to represent us. But in the case that the leaders fail, the constitution allow people to take the mandate to have to practice the urge of direct democracy, where they fully participate in the making of the rules and the laws of the country. So as a Gen Z, like what I can say, it is a good move, because the political class, you know, the political class and the individuals in the countries, they are that big up. And the political class have been playing this hard game because you can see now the opposition coalition is now becoming with the part of the government, because they want the diagram to the diagram. But now you find now the Gen Zs, which are us youths, are the only people who remain as an opposition party in the country under direct democracy. Yeah.
So you feel like it's the Gen Zs who are the opposition trying to put the government in check?
Yeah, because the political class have failed, because now you feel you see now they are starting to work together, which hinder, because previously if you check the parliament proceeding, you will see the members from the opposition side who are putting pressure on the members of the Kenya Kwanza regime. And now that they have come together, you know, members, they always speak. There's something President Ruto said one day, every elected member in the parliament is affiliated to a party where he or she must be faithful. So what the leaders say is what you do. Now that the political class has come together, you know, when the let me say the ODM party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, said to his members like, let's support the bill. You know, you are being affiliated to the party, and the party have the rules that to be followed. So you just have to follow what the rules. Now, as youths, we have no voice, but we just have to practice it through direct democracy for our voice to be heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Prior to that, the president at some point announced that they're going to, in fact, they rolled out a national multi-sectoral forum. I think it was a document that was issued. And in the details of that document, the president is calling upon the Gen Zs or the youth to nominate leaders who will represent them to go and have this dialogue. But then it was also met with a lot of fury and resistance from Gen Zs. They said, we don't want dialogue. We just want accountability. Over 41 plus lives were lost. Inspector General of Police never said anything. The president was interviewed and was asked if he knows that it's more than 30 people who were killed and murdered. In fact, he said 19. There's a point, I think, that even led to the furore, that the outrage again, that even led people to go back to the street during that time. Was in the interview, he was asked if the 12-year-old boy who sustained 8 bullets, was it really fair? And he sarcastically responded, I believe it was unknowingly. He responded knowing that, you know, probably the boy is alive, you know. And Kenyans were like, really, is this how you respond? And they were saying that's another. In fact, it added to the anger and the build-up for why Kenyans had to go back to the streets that time. When you look at accountability from all these events that have happened, and now we have more developments as well in Kware. In fact, there's an update that says it's over 10. In fact, it's over 20 bodies, because the people on ground are saying something different, but the reports up here are totally different. So there's a lot of missing gaps in terms of, yes, this one happened, but I'm not admitting it, because if I admit, I might appear like I'm a weak link. So do you, from your observation, has accountability been taken?
Not really. From my view, I can say not really, because let's start with the Tomukuru Kwanzenga homicide. You will find like what the DCI, the report which the DCI gave yesterday, they were saying 9 bodies. Where the reports which come from the people who are in the ground, it's different, which is being is different with what is being tallied by the DCI. It's that accountability, and then you feel like the police are like they are tear gassing people who are just there to be like witnesses, for them to hide that accountability issue. If they didn't want to be like, if they are in for accountability, why are they just chasing the witnesses away? Yeah, I don't think like accountability, even if you see like, let's go to the demos from the start.
Yeah.
The number which the medical practitioner gives of the deaths and the injured are the different, which is different with what is being tallied by the government official, which are responsible. So like, so here is what now you tend to choose who to believe, and then you feel like the government officials have been so compromised, because if you reveal the truth, you'll be fired. So you just have to take what the masters say.
Yeah. Do you feel like the cabinet secretaries are the ones who failed the regime? And I'm using failed, I'm quoting Kalonzo Musyoka, because there's a point when the president had actually hinted for a dialogue. Kalonzo Musyoka, in one of the presses, he said he doesn't want the opposition. In fact, he was calling opposition leader Raila Odinga to stay away from anything that could lead to dialogue, because, quote unquote, he said it was to sanitize a regime that had fallen on its face. So do you believe, is it the cabinet secretaries who had failed and it led to all these missing links and now the rage, or this was just a ticking time bomb and Kenyans were just waiting for just a prick, just a little prick, and all the vitriol and all the sulfur and the rage exploded in the faces of the leaders.
Okay, if you start by the start, you know there's arms of government, and then executive being one of the arms of the government, which their main function is for the administration roles, right? So you find like the executive have that mandate to carry out the administration duty as aligned by their presidential assents.
Yeah.
So when you feel like there's a failure in government, there's maybe part of a ministry which is leaking, which cannot mandate its need. Because if you see the issues that was being raised from different ministries,
yeah.
If you see the records from the NRC, let's start from the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
They say like there's a lot of millions missing. Like they can't be accountable, but they say like they weren't issued a credit note or something like that.
In fact, I think last week you pointed out that they had lost around, in fact, I believe the number should be 500 million, because they usually tone down the numbers so that they don't shock people.
Yeah.
In a typing error, while they were doing a payout, they lost over 350 million Kenya shillings in a typing error. And this is a Ministry of Health.
This is the ministry. So
imagine that.
So that's okay. That's what I can say. The ministers themselves failed to give because there was someone who said, it was the same Kalonzo Musyoka, who said, if a minister which you trust, you give him or her the power to chair some place, cannot be accountable of what he or she doing with the resources allocated. Because you have the subsidy fertilizer. Nobody knows where the money went. And then
in fact, it was fake fertilizer. It had stones.
Yeah, it was a fake fertilizer. And then this. So it is only this ministers which are like they are incompetent.
Yeah. Still on that part where money has been laundered and embezzled, I think Government Auditor General, her name is Nancy Gathungu. She's now consistent in some of these updates. Last week, I think she gave an update where around 15.5 billion Kenya shillings was lost on eCitizen that's unaccounted for. NTSA lost 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. And then I think 2 days ago, NHIF still in the Ministry of Health, it lost 760-something million in a payroll that's outside the confines of the payments that are supposed to be made within the known payments of that ministry. So it seems like there's a lot of embezzlement of funds. And when it comes to tracing who does this money go to and how did it happen, do you believe that maybe the firing of the cabinet secretaries has now maybe opened a door to transparency?
Yeah, I think it happened. It opened the door because now you will find now they are spilling the beans. You know, before they fired the ministry, like there was no any auditors being shown like this money lost or this money, because when I think the issue started when the demos were ongoing, where they started to highlight where the money has been embezzled, something like that. So like out of that pressure, and then they want to be like, someone want to come out clean, not to be outraged by the public or approached by the public, because there's something they say salimia. So because they are afraid of that, so maybe let me do my part. Let me give the figures out to the public to conflict, and then these are the things that outrage the public. They give people more like that pointers of we want our rights, because now they're saying like after they are finishing with this, the Anguka Nayo demos, now they want every minister to be accountable of what the money lost and how they found the ministry, and then how they left, and the project that they have done. So now they want to sanitize these former CS one by one.
Yeah, so they have to do a follow-up, close audit.
Close audit.
Do you believe it is going to be successful if they have to?
Yeah, because if you can see, like, the pressure is kind of increasing, and then, you know, now, so, like, even the president admit, like, the pressure is kind of worse, because now what they do, because if you don't do, they will still persist. So what will you do? You still do as their wish. Because now you see, like, from the first 2 weeks, the agencies are winning. So I think they will manage it. If they need to counter-check on the CS part, and then they go on.
From your observation, I think right now the country is hanging. There's a wing of it that's pending. The president, when he was dissolving the cabinet, in the press briefing he gave at State House, I remember, he said the PSS, principal secretaries, will take over. But then another conversation is brewing. They are saying, in fact, they want those PSS now audited and screened. It could be that the ones, the demigods of the cabinet secretaries who have been fired. So I believe they're running the ministries. And then there's a resignation of IG of police, Japhet Kome. So there was a conversation in one of the express I was in, and somebody was saying, if Kenyans will go to the streets and protest, and we don't even have an Inspector General of Police, even though we, I think Adamson Bunge, who, I've forgotten. There's the guy who's acting right now, I've forgotten the name. He's the one who's acting as Inspector General of Police. But the conversation was, what's going to happen if Kenyans are going to hit the street again and demonstrate, which we've seen the posters, they're very massive and loud, Angukanayo Tuesday and Occupy CBD. The country doesn't have an Inspector General of Police. The country doesn't have CS, Cabinet Secretary, Defense. So it means a lot can transpire. We are treading on a dangerous castle.
Yeah, it is a dangerous council, but there's some different, because if you see after the CS being fired, the mandate was given to the PS, which
we some of them we don't even know, we've never even seen their faces, right? The dilemma, right?
But no, now the country's being, they can say in a shadow.
So who's running the country? Is it the Gen Zs or the president and his deputy? I remember it's only Prime Cabinet Secretary who was not kicked out.
They can say still the executive, but the roles are being given to different people.
But is it sustainable now? Is it functional from what
the
you've
government
observed?
didn't function that well, because if you see, like, the president doesn't like. There was someone who said, I don't know, it's from I think it was from X, which said, like the president nowadays is not even going to the office. He's just staying around the State House. The only time that he was out of the State House is when he went to launch that project in Kajiado and come back to the State House.
But yesterday he was in Daragwa.
Yeah, like that's, let's say, the state function, not the personal function. The state function on a weekdays. Yeah. So if someone is afraid to take his roles, it means like there's some in hint, like there's something which is not happening, that he's still working on it to fix it. So that's why I can say, like, the state, the country is not running at well. If he still need the time to fix the cabinet, because now we can say he's having headache to choose, because now the public is informed, and they say they must to scrutinize people who are going to be selected. So this, like, the president himself, he's having a lot to do. Yeah.
All right. The Minister of Health was mad. Is in fact that's the ministry that had a lot of people angry. It started with post interns. It started with ensure that you pay doctors. Like, there were a lot of demonstrations before this Gen Z movement around the Ministry of Health. It started with doctors who went on over 40-day strike. And they were demonstrating, some of them were not paid, some of them were not demonstrated because the collective bargain agreement, that is the CBA 2017, had not been implemented up to the latter. And in fact, till today, it has not been implemented up to the latter. JSS teachers are still yet to be employed and paid. Some of them want permanent contracts. The interns that have been occupying the Ministry of Health, last week they slept at Afya House, I think for 2 consecutive days, advocating for them to be posted, and yet some of them even finished around 3-5 years ago. So when it comes to opportunities that the government is supposed to give to its people, from your observation and what you are learning, do you believe that this government has enough opportunities for everyone? And now that, you know, universities are churning out millions of graduates every year. Once at the University of Nairobi right here, there are so many courses, thousands of students graduating annually. You go to Kenyatta University, leave alone now government, higher learning institutions, private, and all of them are fighting for these government opportunities. Do you believe this country can sustain that?
I don't like to sustain that. I don't believe, because if there's 1,000 flocking in the job market, and then what government offer is a little, and then okay, now let me take it from this point. No, let's take to the health docket. No, like when you give someone who is like the mandate to work on something with no technocrat, you know, he or she definitely will just maneuver, but there's no work to be done. You know, like when, like now, let's talk to the CS of the former CS. They say it's just people like the ex quote Nakumicha's a nursery teacher, and if you see. Now let's check on the different, the last regime that, the last executive which the former president Uhuru Kenyatta used. You find like the people who was posted to the ministries as CS, they were more well informed about those posts. If you check we have Dr. Kagu who was handling the health docket. You find like he was well informed on the health matters, and he knows what to do and what the health docket require. So if a visionary mind handle a visionary place, there's more visionary opportunity in future. More than a dumb person handling a visionary place, he will just continue sinking. If Nakumisha was someone who is more a technocrat in a health docket, he could maneuver opportunity to do this in terms, not like just, he's just there, like if you ask, she'll just tell you something which is not even adding up. Maybe you'll see like there's no money to hire the interns, where there's an amount of money which is being provided to the ministry by the government. And then after the audits, you find that this money is being squandered somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Still on that, I think, are they university students that are set to demonstrate? I don't know if you saw that. There's one of the guys, I think his name is Omwansa. I believe he's at the University of Nairobi, OKU. He was being interviewed, and he's calling upon all student leaders to come out and demonstrate. I believe in the Occupy Angukanayo demonstrations for tomorrow, and they're demonstrating against infiltration by government in terms of student leadership. They're saying student leaders are sometimes compromised. He mentioned the Duale something system that was being used, especially at the University of Nairobi. That has been, I think it's a culture that was left there when Babu Owino during those times. So when it comes to now students occupying leadership spaces, and now cabinet secretaries have been fired, and the conversation, since the cabinet secretaries who are sent away, they're saying they want active people, Gen Z say they want active people. You've just mentioned a cabinet secretary who's not conversant with that docket. They didn't study for that docket. A person like Aisha Juma, she was heading gender. You just don't know what that ministry did.
Yeah.
In fact, if you were to ask any lady right now, do you know anything the Ministry of Gender has done? Green, bleak, opaque. When it comes to even matters education, now that I'm mentioning university leaders, there's a lot of missing links. The funding model that's been very, very common. HELB was reduced. There's no guarantee that sometimes if you graduate, you're going to get a job. School fees has been hiked. Now JSS teachers are crying out loud. When it comes to matters education, and now we've mentioned students also graduating in millions, do you believe that the CS who's going to take their part is going to be somebody who's young? And if they're not young, somebody who's an expert? And if at all they are an expert, who are they? Are Kenyans now second-guessing, trying to imagine who is the next big thing cabinet secretary to occupy this position?
Okay. What the Gen Zs think or what they want is somebody who is like competent in his or her work, and somebody is a technocrat who knows how to handle the dockets. And there also their expectation is somebody who is a bit younger or a youth who can understand what their needs. You know, when you take someone who is old, who maybe used those systems sometimes back a while, which they were never have much utilities to handle. But now, you know, there's so much hiked fee. There's also been a demo like which is being planned. Like the Gen Z want to occupy the help office about University House to check on what's going on. It is something like what I can say, what youth expects is somebody who is competent. They don't consider the age, but somebody who can handle the docket very well.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the student leaders being someone docile in on their part. You know, most of the student leaders nowadays are being pocketed by these two politicians. So you find like somebody who you know was very vocal when he was maybe vying or wanted something. Now after winning, now he used to be affiliated with someone who maybe has championed for something or has maybe a good intention or bad intention with what projects is in the country. So he or she will support the master. You know that you must be faithful to your master. So they don't have voice, because if you raise your voice, definitely you will be cut off, something like that. Yeah.
You mentioned compromise in your explanation. Remember during the first, I think when the president was just about to, before he toned down his demeanor, at first they were, you know, during the first address he said, these are criminals, and Kenyans are like, oh, you're calling us criminals, okay? We are again going back to the streets to show you that we are more criminal, for lack of a better word. After that address, there was an issue of dialogue that I think has now, it's pending. It's yet to be confirmed. They rolled out a national multi-sectoral forum, the NMS document that was released, and the Gen Zs are being called upon to nominate somebody who would speak on their behalf, and it's in matters career, gender, and many other facets. From the X-Spaces that I personally have been to, most of them said they don't want dialogue. In fact, they said, if he wants dialogue, let him speak to Jacob Juma, who is deceased, who died in the previous, regime, and it's something also close to him, allegedly saying that he knows better. This Gen Z also said the only people he should be having dialogue with are the people who died, which is not possible. But then this movement is really powerful. It's calling itself faceless, leaderless, tribeless, partyless. And now the national dialogue is set to take place. I believe we don't know when, but the president had said it starts today. but he never talked about it yesterday at Ndarago in his address. So we also had now opposition side, Raila Odinga at some point during their first address. He was in the meeting that had the president, prime cabinet secretary and other opposition leader officials. And they were to start this dialogue that's going to maybe end the protests and the demos, and maybe the president will feed directly from the Gen Zs and hear them out and say, you know what, these are the things that the Gen Zs want addressed, and President, please address them from this and this and this point. But now we are in the blues. We just don't know what's going to happen. Is dialogue the solution to the problems festering in the country right now? Or if dialogue is not the solution, then what is the solution?
Okay, at first I can say that, okay, as a Gen Z, I can say dialogue is not the solution. What the Gen Z's want is for President Ruto to work. That's the main motion. Like, they need actions more than what he said, because he can say something. Let's, for example, like the other day when he was briefing in the State House, he said there's no Harambee for the executive or the members of parliament. And then if you see yesterday, he said like he will give checks to complete the check. That's not action, because there's that's someone who you cannot trust this one. So on the dialogue part, where the Gen Zs are declining, you know, when you have your leader, he or she can be easily compromised by someone who is superior. And and then with the state of the nation, where if you're being identified as their leader, you are being abducted. So to avoid all this chaos with the government, they tend to remain anonymous. They address their issues as a group, where you cannot approach a group. You know that. So the leaderless, you need help, because let's say you are the leader and someone approaches you like, let's have this deal, I give you this amount of cash or work, but you go tell your people, let's not do this, because that's easily, because you must be faithful to your master, right? So let me say you and me, right? You are my leader. And then we have the issue with the admin. You are approached. And then you're being told like, this is what to be done. Will you tell me like, this is what they said to be done, and I will follow because you are my leader, right? But for them to cherish their movement and outcry their emotion, like they have to be diligent and faceless. Yeah.
So what is the way forward?
I think the way forward, okay, what I can say, what Gen Z wants for the government to do, the government should just listen, and then what they can do, they should just do them. The way they are started implementing what the Gen Z want. That's what I can say.
And maybe what do Gen Zs want? Because I also saw in one of the discussions, mnataka nini? Si finance bill imetolewa, si cabinet secretary someenda. What do you want?
Okay, the Gen Zs the only thing that they want is the government to be competent in their administration. That's what they want. And they also don't want leaders who can easily be to compromise, like people who can be easily controlled. Because if you're a leader, you know, like let's not talk about the case of Osoro. During that time of financial, there was this member of parliament from where? This I don't recall the name. He said like he was elected in UDA. She was elected in UDA because UDA was a political party, and it was having a wave in the region where people did not elect her. So what the master say is what she will do. but not relying on what people want. Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of lack of integrity, lack of transparency, lack of accountability, and corruption. The issue of corruption as well is, I think, the biggest elephant in the room. Money just being embezzled and it disappears. People are trying to, I think in the Express Amerix was hosting yesterday, I partially was there for like 15 minutes and then I left. There's a guy who gave a whole outline of some of the missing monies or the finances that have been embezzled, and even he has threads on his X profile of how you can find the issue of public debt. The IMF, in fact, in one of the placards during the demonstrations, there's somebody who had a placard saying, it was a cuss word. It was a cuss word saying, "We are not IMF, B word, F the U.S. Embassy." Another one said, you know, IMF, I think it was an article written by one of the professors, said the IMF doesn't put out fires, it starts the fires. Also tomorrow, I believe Kenyans are set to demonstrate outside IMF offices in Washington. And the question is corruption. Who is embezzling these monies? And in terms of accountability, how can we put them into account? Do you believe you're going to arrive at a destination where we are going to, Kenyans, in fact, right now, in one of the spaces I was at, Kenyans and the Gen Zs are saying it's now Kenyans doing audit. They're not even waiting for the government to do audit for them. In the previous regimes and during those other times, Kenyans will only read an update on newspaper or even accidentally see it on a news update. Oh, this is money that has been lost. But right now, Gen Zs are doing this handwork for themselves, like they're going down on the nitty-gritties themselves, doing the calculations and giving updates as compared to before. Do you believe as part of, I don't know if to use the word sanitize, as part of keeping this government in check, from now on moving forward, it's going to be really hard for anyone who's coming into office if they're not going to speak directly to the people and hear them and use their voice to work and act?
Okay, I can say somebody who is coming in the like as a new technocrat to handle a docket, right?
Yeah.
It will be really hard, like for him or her to work without considering what is being said by the public, because now the public is on check on what he does, on how like they spend. So they will be easily, like, I can say, they will automatically be on check. And being on check, they will be having that pressure to be accountable on how they spend, on how they use. So I think there will be many, even if there will be embezzlement of funds, but they will be minimal. Yeah.
The issue of public debt audit comes into play. Remember, there's a task force that was nominated, and we had LSK president being nominated and shortlisted, and she turned it down. She pointed out it's unconstitutional. Of course it is. There's a part of the constitution that displays and shows an outline of how a public audit is done and how it's stipulated. But then it goes back to matters the public debt. We owe a lot of monies to international bodies, and this goes from the World Bank to IMF. And speaking of IMF, over the weekend we had IMF spokesperson Jen Kozak, hopefully I pronounced it right. She issued an update where they quote-unquote apologized to Kenya for the events that culminated over 25th of June that led to over 41 lives being lost. The question is, why are we borrowing money from external lenders and using it to cripple our own economy? In that address, I remember she said the reason why Kenya deserves to be assisted by the IMF is because it's considered a low-income member, and she mentioned things like concessional funding. She mentioned things like IMF has best interest for Kenya at heart, and they're advocating for social programs, healthcare, education. In fact, they want Kenya to achieve SDGs that are stipulated for by the United Nations. And one of the core is healthcare, universal health coverage, education, and many others that include humanitarian works. So when it comes to public debt audit and what Kenyans are doing right now, Kenyans have pointed out to you they're doing the audit themselves. Do we really need external funding? Because as of today, I think Kenya has over $2 billion from that we owe the IMF. It's over, in fact, it's over 5, I believe. It's over 5. And I'll just check in just a bit and update you.
I think the external funding is necessary for a country, but not that should be prioritized. You know, a country where there's resources which are being exported, and they also taking, like, they're having tax, the tax force, something like that.
Yeah.
So you usually find like the Kenya Revenue Authority issued like how the tax remuneration on the last financial year happened, and then you feel like the amount which was collected is kind of more asserting like they can run a country. But you see, like a country like Kenya, the spending ratio is more than what the country produce. So they just have to maybe exact some fund from the external sources. Yeah.
All right. I'm just saying right here, analysts note that Kenya doesn't just need loans. Kenya has a fiscal predicament. The country was hard hit by COVID-19 pandemic and has also suffered from the fallout of Russia's war on Ukraine. So they're believing these are some of the factors that have crippled Kenya's economy, which has seen global food, energy prices rise. Climate change-induced floods have also hurt the country's economy. As of right now, interest payment made up to the bulk of Kenya's debt servicing cost is coming in at 63% for the financial year 2021-2022. Notably, the domestic interest payments came in at 612.1 billion Kenya shillings, while external interest payment was at around 3.5 billion Kenya shillings. This means that not only are we just paying the money that we owe to the IMF, we are paying with interest if we delay in paying. All right, this is according to the medium-term debt management strategies of 2024, and this is by parliament.go.ke. Let me get to what we owe. So we owe roughly actually it's in US dollars, 71.8 billion US dollars. That's what we owe. That's in total our external debt that we owe. And this is a guaranteed of debts of us that amount to 82 billion Kenya shillings, with a government overdraft at the Central Bank of Kenya of 76.5 billion Kenya shillings, who are suppliers of credit. So not only do we just have external debt, we also have internal, or we call it domestic debt, meaning that we also owe our own lending institutions in here. So it means that the more we continue borrowing, the more the economy cripples, and that will lead to more taxation. And now I think I pointed out to you, Kevin, when I was talking about the IMF starts fires, it doesn't put out fires. It throws the country into disarray when it comes to now stories about the finance bill. In fact, most of the critics online said the 2024 finance bill was an IMF bill, because if they want you to pay the debt, then you'll have to adjust taxation, and you have to tax small things as pads. You saw content creators coming up with outrage. How can you tax us? And so many other taxes in there. So do you believe, are we at some point going to audit this public debt and amicably pay it and be debt-free? And what is going to happen that would lead to that from your observation and maybe just your organic imagination right now?
From my imagination, I can say, like, for government to meet the debt demand or to pay, like what they have just been done to recently, where the government reduced their spending budget in major dockets, like executive, legislature, parliament, something like that. So I think it will take time to pay the debts. But the government, if the government want to pay the debt and to be accountable of what, they must be accountable and transparent leaders. You know, like let's say on the previous regime of the like Uhuru Kenyatta as a president, you say like there was an audit which say like the Kenya was losing 1.2 billion daily on corruption.
Yeah.
So I think that was true. So like by electing transparent and accountable leaders, I think there will be a minimize of the fund being embezzled and fund being used for development.
But the president said we'll have to borrow again. Remember when he had conceded against the finance bill that had been highly contested. He said we'll have to borrow, I think, $1 trillion. I don't know if it's $1 trillion or $1 trillion Kenya shillings to sustain our economy for the financial year, I believe, 2023-2024, right? And as of now, Kenya's public debt is 11.1 trillion Kenya shillings, approximately $82.1 billion US dollars. The overall government debt has also been increasing since Kenya in the observed period. So the debt ceiling is escalating, but then also the time for it to pay is also demanding. So how do we balance in between? But then also when you look at our GDP, all these things, I think last week I had a conversation with one of the guests here. We talked about all these debts will start being paid by if we focus on our own production right here, expanding our production base, which I believe Kenya has not focused in a lot, production and exporting. Instead, in fact, most of us import.
Okay, let's start with the my mind, I can say the production on himself can secure a lot, because there is more that is being in input more than what is being output. So more in input will generate more taxes, and the government will contain some funds to repay the debts. And then outline what Jimmy Wanjigi said on the yesterday's space. He said like Kenya are taking illegal debts. To me, they are not illegal; they are legal, but yet they only goes to personal intention. Somebody gets debt, but it doesn't reach to the public, but it goes to the person. We have, for example, let's talk about the fertilizers, which just disappeared before reaching the Kenya. It is something that's just to show how the debts that governments can see that they put in figures in Kenya Gazette, like they have borrowed this certain amount, but they don't reach to the account of the Kenyan bank, something to be held accountable. They just reach to the personal pocket. That's what the Jimmy Wanjigi said yesterday. So he found like the government just borrow money for their personal use on their flashy lifestyle.
Okay, this is my last question to you, and then we exit shortly. From the incidents that have continued to unfold since the demos began till right now, what are the possible, if you were to sit on a task force of young people, Gen Zs, and suggest possible or plausible solutions that could aid in solving this crisis we are having right now in the country? If you were to speak even to the president and speak your mind, what are some of the 2-3 things you would speak out and believe that, you know what, once we start going to this angle, I believe this will head us into the right direction shortly as we exit?
Okay, at first, the thing that I can tell the government must have a transparent, accountable leaders. Second, the government should embrace the constitution. The constitution controls major activities in the country, but the recent activity there isn't activities you may find like the government violates what is being depicted in the constitution. The third thing which I can say, and the last, the government should come to close and hear what people say, what the people say in the ground, for them to make like major progress changes to run the government. Yeah.
All right. I believe that's your parting shot. Do you have an ex?
Yeah, I have an ex.
At what?
At Sahilari.
At Sahilari. So. All right. Thank you for coming through and sharing your insights. I appreciate you.
Well.
All right. And that's where we take a very short break. When we come back, I'll be speaking to Rama Juma and Collins Kipkemboi. We'll be talking about youth and employment. At Brian Sako 101 at Y254 channel, we've asked you a question. Youth watapata majobs after CS kutemo nje? That is the question we're asking you. We take a very short break, like around 5 minutes. When we come back, we'll be delving into the last conversation of the day at Brian Sako 101 at Y254 channel. See you on the other side.
Y254. Imagine.
I go power. Attention, Cassie.
Friends of JC Sako, as we rise, we are not leaving you behind.
Umeamka fiti, weka tick. Kauna pumua, weka tick.
Yo, and such great mixes of your favorite songs as requested by you.
Siwezi kudanganya popote nilipo, ni wewe, siwezi kudanganya.
Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m.
and let us grow together in Christ only
on JC Circle.
With me, Miriam Masava.
Nix the President is my name.
Right here
on Y254.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
What's up, beautiful people? It's your host with the most, Muna Joy.
And your DJ Faro the Finisher catches every Friday from 6 p.m. mpaka saa 2 usiku on Tano Kali Show.
Right here on Kenya's #1 channel, Y254.
Oh yeah, baby, jamboree. I like the way we gone, buddy.
We're going to be giving you hot trending topics that are happening on social media platforms. We will also be interviewing highly talented artists on the show as well.
Kama kawaida, I'll be here to give you the best mixes. Alafu sahau pia kuna top 5 hits of the week.
All right, see you then.
Like I never loved in my life. So love me like you never loved me.
As you settle in from the hustles and bustles of your day, I have taken a responsibility upon myself to make sure that you unwind in style.
Yo. Skia.
We bring you a cocktail of not just entertainment, but edutainment as well. From the events happening around the country, to movie reviews of the latest films, Creative Corner, where we get to highlight different creatives in the industry. Get to know your stars on Star of the Week as we dish out the 411, yani Moshene, on what is happening on the tabloids. And did I mention that we have a quote of the day? All this under the umbrella of the buzz, every Wednesday from 7:30 p.m. only on Y254 channel.
Shining in the setting sun like a pearl upon the ocean. Come and feel me, oh feel me.
पीलूं है पीने का मौसम तेरे संग इश्क तारी है
天上的云彩是黑哈流呀，嘿呀嘿哈流，嘿呦嘿哈流，那个地上的呀雨点儿的呀流，哎呀地上的呀雨点儿的呀
Kuimbie Bwana, mfalme wa mbinguni, niimbe na zaburi,
Our stories shape our future. It's within them that we get to know ourselves.
God always came through in a way that we couldn't even explain. And we came to realize that putting God at the center of it is like everything else will just flow.
What do you do when push comes to shove?
He was a great man. At that moment, he was supportive. Until 6 months, we went for the first surgery.
That's why here on The Nest, we tell you these stories to empower you and shape your parenting. Every Tuesday from 7:30 p.m. only on Y254.
Comando, wambie sisi ndo vipenzi komando. Komando, wambie sisi ndo vipenzi komando.
Inakuwaje? Ni kila Jumatatu kutokea saa 1:05 hadi 3:30. Ndio unafahamu sisi ni makomando wa Afrika Mashariki ambao tunakupa kipindi chenye mapozi, tunatazama na mapozi ya kwako. Wanasema kwamba you can call me Kenny at Kenrelby.
Wagwang, my name is DJ Kuch pale kwenye chiki na kupatia mziki zote za East Africa, old school, new school, zote ziko ndani. We can link up at DJ Kuch. Boom.
And of course with me, Kalandu Musimi, I'll be giving you all the entertaining stories in East Africa. Nitakuwa nikuambia nani amefanya nini, kwa nini na akiwa na nani.
Hatuagizi na mabosi, sisi wenyewe mabosi, wanatobea mikosi, tunalindwa na sagodi pekee.
Chemi za uongo, story za jaba ndo tingize ubongo, ndo bebe kawale tikiza kamongo.
What's up, everybody? Have you heard of Bounce Nation? We are the latest, most stand-up show in 254.
You know how we do each and every Tuesday, Thursday. Mad vibes, mad music. When you see this face, amazing vibes, pure niceness, mad music. Now always kumbuka wewe ndoko in full control.
I'm unavailable, they know they see me.
I go by the name Feeling Jean.
And I am the beat doctor, DJ Epic, straight out of Gas Chamber DJs. You know how we do.
Of course, catch us every single Tuesday and Thursday from 4 p.m. all the way to 7 p.m. for mad energy, good vibes, and interviews and interactions with your favorite celebrities.
Y254 254. Imagine.
So my name is Nancy Buka. I'm the Dean at the Aga Khan University's Graduate School of Media and Communications. I'm also an Associate Professor of Journalism, Media and Communication. Never in a million years did I imagine that I would one day be in an academic institution, because I come from a family of academics. My grandfather was a professor, my mother was a teacher, and we have many people in the academy within my family. And I didn't think that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted the glitz and glam that is in the media space. So I studied journalism with a bias towards electronic media and communication. And then started off in broadcasting. So one of the places that I spent time at is, this particular station where you're from, the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, which helped me a lot in honing my journalism skills and gave me a sense of direction. I also spent some time at the Nation when they started their broadcasting division, where we were doing a lot of research to inform the production of current affairs programming. And then I think the media just became too hot. Looking at the inspiration that I drew from my family, I thought, why not, pursue other things. I got a scholarship to go into a master's program, and that sort of propelled me to get into the academy. So as I was taking my master's program, I also had an opportunity to teach, of course, under the tutelage of seasoned academics. And that, sort of made me divert from the media into the academy. My main motivation for that, of course, was to make my mother happy, because she felt teaching was a noble profession. But then I also had a genuine passion in knowledge transfer. Working with young people and helping them learn and study was quite exciting. I know at AKU currently at GSMC we work a lot more with graduate students who are people who are working in the industry. But just that passion to be able to transfer knowledge, kept me going. And I think just being in an environment of continuous learning, I love taking risks, and I think what the academy does is that every new day is different. It's not prescriptive. It's different, and you're always learning. When you think you know something, you just discover that you know very, very little. So being in that space where I'm continuously learning and I'm being challenged by my students and my peers and doing research is a thrill, really. It's very exciting. That's essentially what I do every day. But I consider myself an adaptive leader in the sense that, things change every day. And what you think you realize you don't. There's quite a lot of change and transformation that's happening on a day-to-day basis. And so my leadership style is highly adaptable. I adapt to different situations, to different environments, to different contexts, to different challenges on a day-to-day basis. So I wouldn't say that, this is my style and this is the way that it works. I look at every situation and every conversation that I have, and I see how best to lead, within that context. So if we're looking at, what term that would be, then I consider myself an adaptive leader. So I'm actually living the challenge right now. I'm actually right at the front and center of a challenge within the leadership role that I currently hold. And why do I say that? I am leading a school at a time when the media and the leadership role that I currently hold. And why do I say that? I am leading a school at a time when the media and communication industry is going through a lot of change and transformation. A lot of the business models as we've known them that have sustained media have been upended, you know. Technology has disrupted a lot of the things that we would do and how we knew how to do stuff in media. And yet you have students who enroll into your programs, they're coming from that space, and they want an environment where they can learn, unlearn some of the things that they've always known how to do, and also learn new advancements and innovations that then they can take back almost immediately into their everyday work environments, because we basically have students who come from the newsrooms, who come from media organizations into the classroom and then go back tomorrow the next morning. So the challenges that they're bringing to us are not abstract. It is what they're encountering in their everyday work environment. Now, you can imagine if you're leading a school that is supposed to sort of provide some answers or a sense of direction to these people, and they're coming to you with a lot of expectation. So one of the ways in which we have navigated that is that, one, we recognize that our students are not your typical students. They are partners in the whole learning environment. Now, what does that mean? That a lot of the experiences that they're bringing into the classroom enrich the discussion. But two, also ensuring that we have the right faculty profile. And I must say that at TKU or at GSMC, one of our strengths is the quality of faculty that we have, whether it's local or international faculty. So ensuring that we have the right pool of teachers, recruiting, the right faculty who are then able to help in answering some of those questions or unraveling those challenges that the students are presenting. The other thing is that, allowing for professionals to be part of that discourse that's happening in the classroom. So we have professors of practice who help in showing, the practice side of a lot of the issues that our students are bringing into the classroom. And the other thing is encouraging the students to stay the course and to see the value of the work that they're doing. Practicing journalism at a time of great disruption, at a time when misinformation is a headache for everybody, and also just allowing them to, or showing them why what they do is important and why it's valuable. So it's a challenge, but it's one that is not insurmountable. It's one that we've been able to navigate, and it's one that we are also learning even as we lead in that space. Mentorship is great. You are privileged to be working with some of the people who mentored me as a young girl right out of university. Mary Daraja is one of them. And mentorship is extremely important because oftentimes for women, in a lot of the spaces that we are working in, you find that they are more male than women. Within the media space, research has shown that in a typical news setup, you're likely to find almost 70% male and 30% women. The scales are tipping, but very, very slowly. And one of the things that we are doing as the Graduate School of Media and Communications is, one, through the training and education and professional development, that we then are equipping, a huge percentage of women to be able to have the confidence and the credentials to take on, those leadership roles. So mentorship is important because, one, women are able to see what's possible. When they can see women leaders, then they can aspire to be, in those positions because they can see that somebody has done it. But one of the things that I always say is that for those of us in these positions, you know, there are lots of books that have been written around, you know, shattering the glass ceiling for women.
And welcome back. This is still hashtag Why in the Morning. Find us on X, Facebook, Instagram, and the rest at Y254 channel _ on the gram. Personally, mine is a brand Sakwan1. This is the last conversation of the day, and if you're joining us right now, we've asked you a question on our social media platform on our poster. Youth watapata majobs after Masies kutemwa nje. Remember, the president dissolved his cabinet. This came against a backdrop of a lot of demands from the Gen Z movement, and it first started with the Finance Bill 2024 and many other things that culminated to where we are today. Now that the positions are vacant, do they mean something to the young people? And are the young people of this country ready to take up in those positions in terms of them giving themselves opportunity and professionalism? That is the conversation we're going to have. And right about now, I'm being joined live in studio by Rama Juma. He is a student leader at the University of Nairobi, alongside Collins Kipkemboi. He is secretary of Uasin Gishu County Students Association. Karibuni sana. Let me start off with you, Rama. From what you've observed and the events that have led to this miasma of transitions to now cabinet being dissolved, do you believe that the voices of Gen Z are impacting the next direction for this country?
Yeah, thank you for hosting us. So first thing we need to appreciate is our voices have been heard, though not in a good manner, because we hate to lose our lives as we're being heard. Mm-hmm. So in one way or the other, we have just realized that apart from our voices being heard from the ballot, they can also be heard on the streets. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good tune, and it's a matter of putting our constitution in the practice. Mm-hmm. So as people have now realized, there's Article 37 that allows them to go on the street to petition against any government proposal. Yeah. So it's a matter of testing the constitutionalism of the country. Yeah. And it's a matter of also testing the leadership. Is it a leadership that listens to the people, or is it egocentric to themselves? Right. Yep. And it's really interesting you pointed out Article 37, and also it takes me back to Article 1 of the Kenyan Constitution. All sovereign power shall. The line shall. Yes, and the line shall belongs to the people, right? So initially we didn't have people, or rather the generation of people that, you know, went ahead before us, they weren't as loud and as vocal on the injustices and the oppression and the suppression that has accrued over the years. Most of them were be silent, go work, look for an alternative. But this movement right now of you and I is we want accountability, we want action, and we are calling you and we are screening you. In fact, munaenda to the extent munasalimia watu, muna screenshot, hadi you're screenshotting even their family members, calling them out. This one is incompetent, this one embezzled, this and this, so and so. So does this movement aim to fix bit by bit the country, or we are going to reach to a place or arrive at a destination where we're going to say, what, we have advocated enough, and we want to surrender this flag to the next person? And who is that next person? Are we the future that we wanted to see? You know, one thing you need to set sure in your mind, advocacy never comes to an end. Mm-hmm. There's always liberation everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine since independence, pre-colonial period, you realize there's the Momo. Right. After independence, there were still those who were against the government, including after the firing of Oginga Odinga. Right. And then it went on when Kenyatta is dying, Moi comes in. Mm-hmm. Still people pushing for democracy at that time. Yeah. So every season there's always a way of liberation. Mm-hmm. And one thing you need to take sure of is the current generation is a learned generation. Mm-hmm. It's a generation that maybe you have specialized in journalism, but apart from journalism, you know law, you know something about diplomacy, you know something about medicine. So that's the current generation we have. So as somebody in the School of Medicine can advise you on legal matters.
Right.
So that's the thing, that's the awareness the society has, the Gen Z have. So as they go to the street, and then they tell the police, I'm even fighting for your rights.
Right.
You see. So for me, I don't see if there's any possible end for liberation.
Right.
Because anything that's going to uprise, that is going to press on the rights of other people, crossing the rights of other people, there'll always be a serious liberation about it. And there's always a trigger on why you should go on the streets.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's fearless. It's a fearless one.
It is a fearless movement that was almost silencing because the president has now fired the cabinet. But now we have something coming up at Kware. So people are like, so these people are still killing us. You know,
attention.
So their attention has now been diverted. So people are still bitter now. You know, the bitterness is back. So to some extent, a trigger will always be there, and you'll find the people on the street. Yes.
Collins.
Okay, for me, I look at the Gen Z as we are okay. I'm speaking from the medicine. Speaking from the medicine field, we are the one to inject the drug our leaders need. Like for a long time, we have been having arrogant leaders who, like, when the jobs are being created, they are created for them, but they aren't focused on creating jobs for many other people. Like recently, you look at the Ministry of Health, our able cabinet secretary, like the job was created for him as the CS of Health, but he wasn't able to create jobs for the interns for the medical interns who have just completed them. So I look at Gen Z as the possible movement. Like our advocacy comes on the things that matters most. Like for us, we went through an education system and also we have been able to learn that our lives begins to end the day we become quiet on the things that matters most. Now, when it comes to extrajudicial killings, when it comes to, let's say living a flashy lifestyle, let's say, and we all know that for us, there are a lot of technocrats who can do the job very well. So I look at this movement as the one which will come and shape our country. Like we are advocating for how we want to be led. We are bringing the policies on how we want to be. Like we are having the policies in which we want to be governed. You see, like having read through many through the set books such as Kidaga Kimemwazea, Tumbeli Sileshiba. So I look at this as like, okay, we have gone to school, we have learned, so it's now our time to demonstrate to the streets, to demonstrate to the public. Because if I may get to ask you a single question, like actually it's so sad that the country we live in, like you have to go to the street for you to be heard. Like the reason as why tulikuwa tunasalimiana, unachukua namba ya mtu unamsalamia, because if you text him and tell him do this way, there is nothing actually our leader. It's so sad that they cannot do anything until they see us on the streets, you see. Like, so we are learning from them, and we are perfecting, like we are understanding them, and also we are dealing with them drop wise by drop wise. Yeah.
Okay. Rama, from this movement, this fiery unending, you said there'll always be a movement rising up. Now that the president has dissolved cabinet and the positions are vacant, is there any possible, let's say, uprising of a Gen Z leader benefiting from, those dockets? And if possible, how? Do you foresee that? Is it possible? Is it even possible to have a Gen Z leader in one of those dockets? And by those dockets being vacant, does it mean an opportunity for other ordinary Kenyans who are competent and qualified for them?
You see, one of the main principles of Gen Z has remained they are leaderless. But you have the opportunists who have been taking part in it, like they want to come out clearly as the leaders of the movement. And clearly, from a neutral angle, you'll see that the movement does not have a leadership. You remember the previous week, before the concert at Uhuru Park, we didn't have any communication, like people are going to do candle lighting in town. We
Right.
didn't see it anywhere on media. But suddenly we saw people Sunday on the streets
Thousands,
burning
yeah.
candles.
Thousands.
Then
yeah,
you wonder,
turned
like,
up.
where is this communication coming from?
Yes.
So from a neutral point of view, you realize there's no leadership. But there's opportunist people who are taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
So as they want to come up, they say, you know, we are the leaders, we are the people we are the driving force of this movement.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the downside of such a movement, is that anyone can infiltrate and, you know, package themselves as a face that resonates with the movement, but they're sheep in, or folks in sheep's clothing.
You know, that's the infiltration I think we are really tackling on the media, because you come out and then you address the media, you say, I'm the leader of Gen Z, we'll come for you, takusalamia. And then you talked over the issue of new face in the cabinet or a possible Gen Z. You know, if you really look at the issues the Gen Z are raising, we have, as Gen Z, we didn't have any interest in being in the cabinet. We just said the cabinet is incompetent.
Yeah.
And demanded the president to dissolve the cabinet. So it's a matter of merit. Which I know we have, because from the statistics from the Commission of Higher Education, in a year, Kenya has 50,000 graduates every year. We have 50,000 people with degrees going on the streets. So if among in the past years, if whoever agency was qualified and merits that position, we'll be very happy for that.
Yeah.
But what we are advocating for, we want a competent cabinet, a technocratic cabinet. You know, it's not a cabinet of, you know, like I don't need to mention the names, but you see, like, you just feel this person does not fit in this position. Look at an example of one of the most praised president of Kenya, like Kibaki. Look at his cabinet after the 2002 election. You realize, like, people had done the specialization. Martha Karua running the Minister of Justice, the one that was now devolved to Attorney General at that time. So it was a ministry at that time. Mukhisa Kitui, he was a specialist in trade. He was running the Ministry of Trade, and you realize after his tenure with the Kibaki, he went to the United Nations Conference of Development and Trade, you know, as the Secretary General, until he resigned in 2021 and came back. Look at Kalonzo, serving as a Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time. And you realize he has really been a good impact in the peace mission in Sudan and South Sudan currently.
Yeah.
So you realize,
so
like,
their CVs
those
and
people
resumes.
People were experts.
With
you
the
know.
dockets.
Yes, they were experts. So as after even the cabinet, after even the government, there are still valuable people out here in the society.
Right.
Yes.
So what was wrong with the ones we had, the crop of cabinets that were just kicked out last week?
The dissolved cabinet, as they used to term it, it was a cabinet of shareholders. Doesn't matter what you bring on the table, as long as you are among the shareholders, you deserve the position. So it doesn't matter what the capacity you bring on the table, what idea you have, what are your academic qualifications. So long as you're part and parcel of the planning, you are a shareholder, which was wrong.
Right. Before I get to you, Collins, lastly, still on you, Rama, I was in one of the X spaces, and there's somebody who was saying that they feel like Parliament has been compromised in a way that they can't execute their mandate because they are puppets of, you know, the leader above. And so if somebody has to say something that maybe, or even criticize or give just an observatory remark about something that's amiss, they can't do that because they've been bought. And maybe this is what Kenyans are saying. If you're a member of Parliament and you're there, and also I think the anger that, you know, led to this furore of the finance bill is the members of Parliament who voted yes and no. It's like, how did you vote yes, but on this other side you said something contrary? And then the conversations around that is that, you know, there's people who went to State House and they were told, you know, in fact, there's one of the ladies, I don't know if she's from Kirinyaga, Mero Lisema, they were paid 2 million to vote yes. So compromise.
You know, it's one of the demands of Gen Z is the independence of the state organs. So as the executive should remain the executive and do its work. Same to the judiciary, same to the legislature. So what Gen Z have noticed, there's a hand from the executive that wants to control the legislature and the judiciary. And that's what caused the uproar until people stormed the parliament at the time.
Yeah.
So you realize, immediately the president puts the hand in the parliament and he has his foot in the judiciary. And then everything should go to his wish, you know. And then immediately that one happens, he contravenes the rights of the people.
Right.
Because we voted for you. It is not the, yes, you belong to a political party, but it is the citizens who voted for you. So go to the ground and listen to the people, not the president.
Yeah.
Because we had some MPs coming out clearly and say, I'm a servant of the president. What the president says is what I'll do. Then we said, we'll wait for you at home, you know. Yeah.
And that's why they're saying it's now moving from the national slowly and trickling down to the county government.
Yes.
Collins, what does this whole conversation and what we've just pointed out right here mean to the young people now that the cabinet positions are vacant?
Okay, as I said earlier, we want to have the cabinet. We are not creating jobs for the cabinet secretary. We are putting someone there who will create jobs for many of the Kenyans outside there. You see, we want the cabinet who will go sit down, check on the policies. Like there is recently the famous that, okay, someone just said that the people will be hired on contract basis. Another one just said hiring is just up for 2 years. But then we are having so many of the people. So we want to put a cabinet, like we aren't interested in sitting in those big posts. Like I said, we are leaderless, but for us, we just oversight, you see. Like we want people who will ensure that, let's say, the people turning outside there, the graduates, have the jobs. And one of the ways to do so is to check on the policies. Like, we want a cabinet secretary who really understands, like, whose qualification matches with the docket. Like, for example, let's say when we look at the Ministry of Youth Affairs, we expect that one of the qualifications which President should look at it is that someone shall be of age 35 years and below. You see, such that when we are talking about this, the pressing challenges that we are facing, such as something to do with sports, something to do with that, so he understands it better, and he can be, once you have understand something better, you are in a position to advocate. We want someone who will liaise with the public sector and the private sector, you see, so that we can be able to have more industries, we can be able to have more job creation, you see. So we are looking forward to that. And also something as to echo what he has just said, we are a leaderless movement, we are faceless movement, like we carry everyone. So like the challenges which we are having as Kenyans, we'll just continue to speak out. And also, let's say the people will occupy that post. The movement hasn't just ended. You do a blunder, we are back again on the streets. You do a blunder, we are back again on the streets. So we are looking forward to having that. We want the people who can really do what they are there to do. So, and also we are looking forward to, we want to have the challenges which we have the recurring challenges. We want it to be solved, and also for the new challenges, we want to have the cabinet secretaries who can be able to listen to the people. Like, you see, the day we are living, the world is now evolving. So, you see, right now we might be having the problem of unposting of the intern. So your work as the cabinet secretary will not only be to solve the current issue. There will be some issues which will be emerging, you see. So we are looking forward to that leader who will be able to listen to the people, who will be able to identify the problems at a time, solve them at a time, you see. So that's the kind of leadership. And also I like to, like, let's say that decision of firing the entire cabinet was actually the right decision to have ever made. You see, we want now new ideas, new strategies, new energies which will drive our country forward. Yeah.
Still on your Collins, the Ministry of Education is really, that docket is really intense, and the docket of health. There's been a lot of mishaps, and also agriculture as well. And if you look at the cabinet secretaries that have been in those positions that they've exited, they had scandals and a lot of questionable activities. If we were to do a facelift and maybe have a young person come on board, do you feel like they'll bring the change that the Gen Zs want to see? Because you've said you want competent, you want somebody who's relevant, you want somebody who's an expert, he said that, who understands this docket, they've studied for it, and plus many other things that they've experienced that can help them be in full capacity to run that docket.
Okay, that's a very good question. You look at the 15 to 20% of our ages, we are so many people are unemployed there, and you see, for the Gen Zs, we are diverse. You see, when you look at the Ministry of Health, we want that technocrat. I believe that there is an entire basket full of untapped potential. You see, we have so many jobless, and these people, I really believe that with the education system we have gone through, we are innovative enough. So I think for us as the young Gen Zs, we are the solution to the challenges which we are facing currently. You see, I look at, let's say, the Ministry of Health. I'm actually confident that if we can just be able to have someone who is really who has really studied in that, he has understand we are looking forward to having technocrats who understand the more dynamics of the area of specialization. And for sure, you see something like Ministry of Health, we want purely to be run by a medic. Something Ministry of Education, we want someone who has just been in that field for a long time. You look at the current minister, if you take a background of him, he was something to do with, he was a police, yeah, right? So many of the problems which we are facing is just due to misplaced, let's say, mismatching of the jobs which are given. So for these crucial dockets, I am confident that if someone will be chosen on merit, someone will be chosen just because he qualifies to do that job, is actually going to deliver. And again, if you are chosen, you don't deliver, we are still back on the street. You aren't our leader, so you are elected, you don't solve the current problems, you don't identify the problems at hand, the streets are still there. We are going to still come back to you.
Okay, Rama, it seems like Kenyans are not backing down. It's like pressure continues to build and intensify. At first, you know, even the is it the Generation X, our fathers and our grandfathers, they thought, you know, the finance bill itakuwa cancelled, and then they'll be like, oh, thank you, you've cancelled the finance bill. Now we can move forward. But, you know, the Gen Zs and young people are relentless. They're like, in fact, we're now doing audits of our external debt. Let's now get to the nitty-gritties. You borrowed $500 million from the IMF. Where was that money spent? Early in the morning, I was pointing out NHIF lost around 400 million Kenya shillings in a typing error to a payout. Imagine such an intense ministry like a Ministry of Health in a typing error. The incompetence. Yesterday, 2 days ago, so they lost around 50 million Kenya shillings in an unscrupulous payout that they have no idea who this money was being paid to. And then on the other side, NTSA has lost 1.2 billion Kenya shillings, and they just have no idea how that money went. And then eCitizen lost 15.5 billion Kenya shillings. And these are reports from Government's Auditor General, Nancy Gathungu. When it comes to now accountability and auditing, of especially now transparency, this money was here and it's nowhere to be seen. How do we start tracing it now? Because the people that should have been traced, they've exited office. Is it possible we follow them and tuwarudishe tuwakalishe chini tuambie hapana, mkikuja you declared you had 100 M, right now you have $1 billion. How did you accumulate this very fast?
Yeah, I think if I pick from where you started it, General X, believing now Gen Z have now managed to press the president to withdraw the bill. Now it is done. You know, I want to bring the idea of, there's a peace scholar called Johan Galtung. Johan Galtung says, in any conflict arising, there's always a trigger. And that trigger is not the cause of conflict. Those are the underseeing causes of the conflict. Yeah. So, Finance Bill 2024 was a trigger. We had so many other pressing issues
Yeah, so it was an accumulated.
So it was an accumulated
event
of things,
of operation,
yes,
and whatnot. Yeah,
exactly.
So it was just a prick.
So we just
exploded.
Yes, just wanted something little, just to break the membrane, and then everything bursts out.
Yeah.
So for them, they thought physically what they could see, they could only see the finance bill.
Right.
But Gen Z was seeing something back behind the finance bill.
Yes.
So the finance bill was out. And then they thought it is done. It was not done. Because we have a lot of issues rising. First issue, the issue you're talking about. You know, one of the things youth were against the finance bill was not because we don't want to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
There's no country that can grow without paying the taxes.
Absolutely.
But the fact is, where is this money going? You've just mentioned some of the scrupulous scandals here. You know, how do you lose 400 million in a typing error? How?
Seriously, in a Ministry of Health.
In a Ministry of Health, a ministry that for the first time since I was born, I've had, there's no vaccines in hospital for children. Since I was born, I've never had that. So how do you lose 400 million in a day? 400 million. And just from the same report, the Auditor General says in a day, we are losing 11 million. Every day.
Wow. So
from morning to evening, we will have lost 11 million. Just today, we'll have lost 11 million. So so finance bill was just a trigger.
Right.
We have so many other pressing issues that we want to address. Number one is the issue of corruption. That's one of the things that we need to address.
Yeah. So how do we start? Because I was in an express yesterday, and there's one of the guys who was, in fact, he has the receipts of all the financial years and how this money was spent. And then Jimmy Wanjigi, I don't know who mentioned Jimmy Wanjigi. Yeah, I think the previous guest said, you know, some of these debts Kenya is paying are illegal. In fact, Kenyans are not supposed to be paying any debt. But because of just a syndicate of, you know, people that brand themselves in there, that they know how to manipulate things, it ends up becoming a Kenyan citizen issue instead of like being that politician's issue. You embezzle the money and now you're throwing the problem in the faces of Kenyans.
That's the thing that I question myself. When the day the president withdrew the bill and said, I surrender, right? He withdrew the bill. And then if you look at the parameters of the bill is targeted to raise 3.4 billion to cap up to the budget deficit.
Right.
But now, after withdrawing the bill, at the end of the statement, the president now saying, I'm now forced to borrow 1 trillion Kenyan shillings.
Yeah.
If we hit a budget deficit of 3.4 billion, why borrow 1 trillion?
Yes.
That's the first question I asked myself personally. I asked myself, Finance Bill had proposed collection of more taxes so as to cover up the budget deficit,
right,
which was 3.4 billion.
That is for financial year 2023?
2024, 2025.
Yes.
Yes, the new budget.
Right.
Then the president now going ahead to borrow 1 trillion. Where is the 6.6 billion going to?
Yes.
That's the first question you're asking yourself. Then, is it the money that we are seeing our politicians walking around in sacks?
And does that mean Kenya doesn't have money? Because there's an article that said, you know, IMF does not help countries. It sets them on fire. So do we really need IMF funding or World Bank funding? In short, external funding, do we need it?
Personally, I believe we don't need external funding because having studied all those fields of the Bretton Woods institution like the IMF, World Bank and the rest, you realize their lending is always attached to a condition.
Right. Do you believe it was also attached to the finance bill? Because they said
one of the things Gen Z
believe
finance bill was drafted by IMF.
Yeah, I've actually seen critics say that even outside the country.
Yes, at the moment the public debt is around 11.6 trillion as we're speaking. You know, and IMF and World Bank, we owe them a lot. So one of the things they're praising Kenyans is the one they repay because the expiry period is almost coming.
Right. And now the taxation.
So they have to increase the taxation so as we can pay back the debt as much as possible. And then as we're paying back the debt, they're borrowing.
Remember, it's coming with interest. It's not just like you're paying the debt.
Yes.
It has accrued interest
Yes.
over the previous regimes.
Yes, the debt has accrued interest over the some time, and then at the same time, they're coming with conditions. You realize one of the outbursts of the Gen Z was IMF is saying now we're going to top up your budget, but now there will be no employment in the public service for the next 1 year. We're dropping 50,000 graduates on the street every year. Where are they going?
Right.
My mom and my dad brought me to school to learn. One of their wishes is seeing their son working here. Who told the president we want to go and work in Germany? Or Saudi Arabia?
Or in the US?
Or in the US?
You don't want to go to work in the US?
Who told them we want that?
You don't want to go, the American dream, but
everybody has his own dream, but there's a dream of
the country is helping you live your American dream.
You'll have been there for some exchange program, but one thing of you need to know, you'll never be comfortable in a foreign land.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you earn. You know, for us here, you are on your own land. You can criticize the government. You can do anything.
Yeah. And you're protected by your
constitution. And you are protected by the constitution. When they come to you, say, I have the constitution here, and the lawyers will be there to protect you. In a foreign land, your
so
rights
you don't want
are
the
limited.
nurses to go? That's brain drain.
That's leave alone brain drain. That's modern slavery.
Yeah.
Because look at Italy. The highest population of Italy is above 70 years. So generally, same to Germany. So generally, the economy of Italy and Germany is collapsing because of the old age. So they just need slaves, not workers.
Labor.
So that's modern slavery. Like the presidents meet, discuss, share on papers. They say, okay, now bring for us 5,000 youth from Kenya to work for us here in Germany. That's slavery. And then at the same time, as you're working, you are being taxed direct to the government.
Right.
So you're not going to work for yourself and your family. You're going to work for the government. That's why I'm calling it modern slavery.
Modern slavery. Okay, I see the point. I see the point. Collins, this movement is really powerful, but then he's mentioned it's not dying anytime soon. I've seen, I was somewhere, and there's one of the old folks who was saying, if it wasn't for Raila, this movement wouldn't be there. And everybody turned and they were like, bruh, what do you mean? If it wasn't for Raila, this movement wouldn't have been there. But like he's mentioned, it was just a trigger. The outrage, the massive furore that we've experienced right now, it was just a ticking time bomb, because over time, people have been silent on very many things that really mattered. And I love it, you mentioned, you start to die the day you become silent about things that matter to you, right? So do you believe if there wasn't any, let's say, a moment that triggered this outburst, maybe tungekuwa tu still silent and in oppression? Sorry.
So I actually believe that, actually, you see, when you're being oppressed, you'll finally speak up, you see. If there was not going to be a trigger of finance bill, I actually believe that people would actually speak out. That's actually what I believe. You see, when you actually, I look at, let's say, one of the policy was about the taxation of the land, you see. And when you go to the rural setting, you find that there's someone who lives in a point, you see, and you are also being taxed, you see. And I also believe that this thing was just brought by the harsh economic times which we were actually there. Like, you see the prices of unga, like, I was just, even it's just cut across everyone. You see, the price of the unga, it's not about just the flow, everything had gone up, you see. And now, like, to me, I just echo what you just said. It was just a trigger, and this thing is not going to end anytime soon. As I just said earlier, the movement is there for us. It's Gen Z's movement is there for us. You see, there were some things which we actually look at the things, we categorize our needs based on the priority. You see, like, just the other time, the urgent concern was the finance bill, you see, and now the urgent concern is about the corruption. So for us, for our movement, we categorize on the things, the priorities, and basing on the categories of need. There are many concerns which we still have, but it's not urgent as at now. But it will still come and speak out, you see. That's why I was just saying, you see the issue of corruption, you see the issue of mismanagement of the funds. It's a matter, but it's not concern at the time. But you see something like the loss of the billions at the Afya House, then we are being told we don't have money to employ you. How? We'll actually have to speak up, you see. And actually there are many other things, like as I said earlier, kuna vitu zile. There are things which we can speak up to right now, and we want them to identify the solutions we are having now, sort them out, and also the emerging one. You see, like the world is evolving. Right now is corruption. The things which you have identified now, it need to be solved. Then when it's come, then tomorrow maybe it might just be another thing. So the things which should have to be solved based on the urgency of concern, and also the fact that we remain leaderless is actually it's a plus on our side.
Is it a dangerous thing, or because if you're leaderless, meaning that you can't finally come to an agreement? But anyways, you guys are agreeing online in the Expresses. If you guys are able to, like he mentioned, at Uhuru Gardens, was it Uhuru Gardens or Uhuru Park?
Uhuru Park.
Yes, if people never met face to face but then turned up in large numbers, it means that there's some sort of leadership in as much as it's communal and organic and scattered, but people are speaking in one tone on the algorithm.
Okay.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's actually
lack of a physical leader, because the president rolled out the national something forum, and he suggested, we want you Gen Zs to nominate a leader who will represent you so that we have dialogue that's in fact said to happen today, but they've not mentioned it.
You see, the issue, one of the things, we have the concern, we have something which it is us, unaona, kuna ile kitu inakudunga. So the fact that we are leaderless, you just speak out on that thing which presses on you, you speak out to many. Like, you see, this we don't want this chain of connection, like if we were having a leader, then you'll have to go speak to him that, you see, there is this and this thing. And actually we see that the leaders has already failed us. So it's a plus for our side, because when you have ukiwa na concern, you just air it out and we implement, you see. So the fact that we remained tribeless is that we want to make sure that this thing of you know who side that your concerns are being heard, you see. So the fact that we remain leaderless, we remain in such a way that ukikuwa na concern, you just speak out and the people will be able to listen to you. So say that, because let's say if we were going to be having our leader, our specific leader, then I look at it like you can just be having your concern, but let's say because of your difference, let's say because of many other factors, you speak to him, he cannot implement what you are having. But the fact that you remain leaderless, you can be able to speak out that thing which comes at the agency.
Okay. Rama, somebody mentioned the dangers of this such a leaderless movement is that anyone can infiltrate it and try out anything. And you remember the issue of goons. When all of a sudden the protests were they had picked the momentum, it was just innocent Gen Zs protesting, and then, the narrative began, goons were hired. Do you believe goons were hired, or somebody collaborated somewhere up there and they orchestrated this whole fiasco, and now it even led to the tempo of the protest slowing down? But then, shock is that tomorrow you guys are occupying CBD, and it's called Anguka Nayo. I've heard that one Lege song. And you guys are going with that tempo.
Tulege.
Anguka Nayo. Oh, Tulege. Okay. So what is going on, man?
One thing for sure you need to know, as Gen Z, we are going to the streets. We're only armed with 3 things. Have your camera on.
Your iPhone.
Yes, your iPhone. Have your flag. Have your water bottle.
And a Colgate. Somebody
a Colgate. Pack a Colgate to neutralize the tear gas. Anything beyond that is not a Gen Z. And that's why we could easily identify. Like, we see you walking around with stones, brute weapons, you're no longer part of us.
And the lootings. Several supermarkets
the lootings happened
in downtown and uptown CBD.
Downtown, somewhere around Afya Center, backwards.
There's a Naivas there.
Naivas around there,
At
Quick
bus
Mart.
Station,
Yeah, all the way to Randingala.
Do you believe those were goons or Gen Zs?
at the time when the robbery was done, you know, the mass theft, as we can call it, you realize at that time, Gen Z had stormed the parliament. So most of the people were in the town along Moi Avenue, Uhuru Highway, Kenyatta Avenue, within the CBD. But then, as the major events were happening this side of the CBD, behind this, the city, theft was being done.
Yeah.
So you realize, either for us as peace expert, as security expert, you say there's two possibilities. One possibility, it's the government hired the goons to come and taint the image of Gen Z. So as they have a reason. This way we could hear the president when he was having the dialogue after the invasion of the parliament at the State House.
Yeah.
When he's having the interview, they're telling the president, we have lost lives. So the president is saying, we have lost properties worth billions. How can you compare life of somebody with billions of property? You know, so it was an escape code for the government. So as they have to find the way out on how to silence you people.
Yeah.
So as to justify why they should call us criminals.
Yeah. But somebody says there's an impending there's an impending motive to even suppress this this movement as time goes by, because if you guys are going, and shockingly, yesterday I was browsing through, I was binge browsing. I saw there's Kenyans who are gathering at Washington at IMF Center to demonstrate from 12:30 to 3:30 p.m. That is tomorrow. That will be Wednesday by that time. So it's like you guys are not backing down, and if they do the suppression thing, will it deter this movement?
You know, one of the things you need to rest sure of is suppression won't work at this generation. If they think the tactics of Moi of 1978 to 2002 will work at the current generation, it is not going to be possible. So as you're going to believe, Rama will mobilize students from University of Nairobi to go on the streets. So I have to abduct Rama overnight, so the students will fear to go on the streets tomorrow.
Right. And
they have now found a reason why they should go on the street.
And there's a lot of abductions, speaking of that.
Now, if for example, if such a matter happens, so as they feel now Rama is going to mobilize, so he has to disappear overnight, so as the students do not go to the street. I want to assure you one thing, students will now have found more reasons to go on the street. Yeah. The more they abduct us, the more we find reasons to go to the street. We're now not only going to the street to call out the negative doings of the government, but also going to the street to call out the release of our abducted comrades. Yeah. You know, so
and some of them are found dead.
Some of them are
quarries. Some of them are tortured mentally. You know.
You see, now that's the thing. That's the conflict that came around when the president was giving his press at 4, right? And then the deputy president was also giving his press at 5 the other time. And then you realize,
I think it was 6 p.m., 4 p.m.
Yes, 4, 6 p.m. One in Nairobi at State House, one in Mombasa. So you realize the president is totally talking, there's no abductions. And then the deputy president is now saying...
Add interior CS. He was questioned.
Yes, and the deputy president is now coming out clearly. And he even questions what I also questioning my conscience. If the son of the Attorney General can be abducted, what of me? So the deputy president is coming out clearly saying he's not believing that the days of abduction are back again. But the president is saying there's no abduction. So
Interior CS said.
Interior CS saying
was questioned about it.
There's no.
And also the number of people who died. You know, the number is 41, but they're saying it's 17. The other time, you know, the president said the child is alive. So those responses and discrepancies and, you know, the tone deafness is just crazy.
You know, what that tone symbolizes? It symbolizes the lost value of a human life. So as we can argue on how many people died, we're not sympathizing. We're just arguing how many people died. So the head
and are you accountable? Can you confirm and affirm?
Yes. So as the president, the head of state can strongly come out and say the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights is wrong. You're saying they're lying. This is a state agency. So it means if a state agency is lying, so the government is lying. So is government disowning the government?
Government.
So it is the government disowning the government. Yes. Kenya National Commission for Human Rights is a government agency. So if the president is saying the commission is giving us wrong figures, then it's a government disowning a government. But the thing is in our matters...
You know, there's that fear of you work in government, but you don't have to call it out. You have to.
You know, and that's why Shakur was on the street. You know, I think, you know, the cop who is working with the Kenya prisons, I think he was interjected the other day. Yes, he was on the street and said, for the fear of those working with the government, you say 254 is part of the government. Yes, so you're also working for the government. So you also fear going on the street. So Shakur said...
No, we don't fear. We don't fear. Yeah.
So Shakur was saying he's on the street on behalf of those government workers who fear to go on the streets. Because you know the repercussions, you're going to be interjected something of the sort, and all the disciplinary measures. But the thing is, you are right to picket is enshrined in the Constitution. You have that right.
Yeah.
Yes, and any unconstitutional interjection should be thwarted by the law. Yes.
Let me come back to you, Collins. It seems like even tomorrow, as you guys are heading back to the streets, it seems like even after that, there's like another batch again. And right now, there's no Inspector General of Police. He resigned. I believe the acting one, I've forgotten. I need to recall the name because, of course, some of these leaders as well, the more they come do the presses, the more they do their work, the more their name sinks in and gets pictured in the memories of Kenyans. So right now, there's a little bit of a pending situation in terms of security. What if you guys build up too fast now? We overwhelm the security forces and then we deploy KDF na ianze kuham the young people. Will that not be a loss other than somebody was saying, Simtulie? In fact, most of the Generation X wanasema tulieni sasa, mmeshawasikia. But you guys are like, no, we want more. Yeah.
Okay, the first thing is that our generation, we are harmless, by the way. We picket peacefully, you see. Now, even we don't see the need for us having an Inspector General. We don't see the need for us having a security forces. You see, because it's just that it has been just hijacked by people who want to taint bad image. But for me, I believe that if we as Gen Zs, we go outside there we go to the streets, we picket, we demonstrate. We actually believe that there will be actually no harm, and that's the reason as why I don't see for us postponing our demos because we don't have an IG. I don't see the reason as to why, because actually, unlike many previous demonstrations, our intention is just very pure. We just want good leadership. We just want our grievances to be heard.
Okay, you can pause it there because we're exactly 10 a.m. and past 10 a.m. will be cut off the air. So just say your social media, Rama, one that's very active.
Twitter at Rama Juma.
At Rama Juma. Yours?
Collins Kipkembai. Both at Twitter is Dr. COLOH, Dr. Kolo.
All right, thank you so much for coming through. It's time. It's not me. It's time. The conversation has been good, but thank you so much for coming through. Rama Juma, student leader, University of Nairobi. Hopefully, you'll come back again next week. And Collins Kipkembai, secretary of Uasin Gishu County Students Association. Thank you for your insights as well. And that's what we say. Thank you so much for watching from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Tomorrow, we see you bright and very early for Innovations and Entrepreneurship Tuesday. We'll have an interesting lineup of guests. Also, we'll be diving into the current situation, state of the nation, what is happening in the country, and much more. At Brian Sakwan1 at Y254 channel. Have a fantastic Monday. See you bright and early tomorrow.
Y254